You thwart the schemes of the crafty so that their hands find no success. O Lord, you are the Most High. You rule over the realm of mankind, and you have appointed this day, and we also, your servants, have been providentially installed as governing officials of the state. We pray for wisdom and for conviction to lead under your sovereignty this house assembly. May we say with Solomon, there is no wisdom, no understanding, no counsel that can prevail against the Lord. You are the Christ, the Son of God over all, most blessed forever. Amen.
Members, we're in the roll call. Please record your presence. We're in the roll call.
Welcome to State House Today. I'm Gavin Jackson along with Maayan Schechter here in the State House lobby. It is Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. Both the House and Senate, as you can hear, are in right now as we kick off week 15 at the State House, Maayan, on our sprint to Sine Die on May 14th at 5 o'clock. That's the last day, the last hour of session. And we're grinding through it right now. The Senate is gaveling in as we speak, and they are going to be taking up the budget this week, which we'll be covering extensively, as we mentioned, in the State House Gavel at scetv.org/thegavel. The House, TBD, THC, maybe?
Yeah, so we were told by the House Speaker last week that they would do DOT roads legislation this week. We learned over the weekend that is likely to be, I'm trying to think of a roads pun.
Detoured.
Detoured, rerouted, right, to potentially next week. And that there's conversation around, yes, the hemp consumable THC drink legislation that the Senate amended.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with that. Of course, we saw that really blow up in the House back in February. There was another bill that was already over in the Senate that was just a loosely regulatory bill when it just came to restricting those consumables to folks under 21, meaning it's just kind of like beer and wine, essentially, and liquor. Of course, that bill's been amended since then. There's a lot more dealing with it when it comes to where you can buy these drinks, 5, 10 milligram drinks. There's a lot to do with that. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the House. As we've seen, like, again, they try to do a lot of tweaks here and there, talking about gummies as well. No one seemed to really have any consensus. Even the Senate wasn't entirely happy with what they passed, but it was passed by a pretty large margin. So,
and the Senate's attitude has been, we want to at least add regulations because it is so unregulated. Talking to folks in the House, it seems like also like the Senate, there's no real consensus over what to do. Everyone agrees that the products should be banned to anyone under 21 years of age. That is simple, but legislature is never simple. And so, of course, they're debating something much larger than that. And so it'll be very interesting to see where the factions fall in the House.
And again, we expect to see that probably taking place, or whatever big debate taking place tomorrow, Wednesday, as we typically see things happen on Wednesdays. But of course, like, we're running out of time here too, so they're going to be working through the calendars in both chambers. Of course, in the Senate, it's just be budget focused for the most part. But we expect them to really get in position to really kick it into high gear in the final days and weeks here. I do want to mention before the Senate gavelled in, though, that we did see the Senate Medical Affairs Committee pass out S1095, that really restrictive abortion ban bill that outlaws abortion and also makes no exceptions for rape or incest or fatal fetal anomaly, which we currently have on the books up to 12 weeks. It does make exceptions for the life of the mother. It also reschedules mifepristone and other abortion-inducing drugs as Schedule IV controlled substances and penalizes women and doctors who administer illegal abortions. So that bill, again, like we just said, moved through the Senate Medical Affairs Committee, an 8-4 vote. We did hear from Beaufort Republican Senator Tom Davis, who's been kind of outspoken about these super restrictive bills. Again, going from the 6 weeks that we currently have on the books or a lot of people say this is the best we're going to get when it comes to abortion, so kind of just leave it be. No one's really pushing for this too much besides Anderson Republican Senator Richard Cash and some other hard right senators who are kind of hopeful to see this move somewhere. But of course, we've heard from Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey say that there's been no discussions about this. There's no plan to start doing this on the floor, especially when we're talking about the Senate budget week. Then we come out of the Senate budget week next week. There's only so many days left to get a bill through the Senate, especially one this large and controversial, and then get over the House. And then if it gets to the House, Mayan, I mean, you have even less time. Who knows where their appetite is on this? I don't think there's much of it there because they have a huge calendar and other bills that have already moved through in so many ways, higher priority. So I can't imagine the Senate moving a bill through, spending all that capital to get to the House where it's TBD. I mean,
right. And again, going back to, you talked about Senator Tom Davis, who posted a social media post to X after the hearing, basically saying that this bill would criminalize both women and doctors, particularly women. That's a problem for a lot of Republicans. Also, removing the exceptions we've talked about this, it is not popular, specifically in the House. The House has tried that, had that debate, not really been able to go anywhere. And in talking to House folks, House Republicans, I mean, they have said that they are not particularly on board with going through yet another abortion debate, especially when they're all up for re-election. Polling among Republican primary voters shows that there's a lot of support for the 6-week ban and for exceptions. And so it doesn't seem like really the larger consensus in either chamber is particularly happy to see this bill move. But again, we've got 4 weeks.
And even Richard Cash, who's the bill's sponsor, said he doesn't know where it's going to go. And again, I have an interview with Richard Cash on our YouTube page, as well as Tom Davis's full remarks. That's on youtube.com/@SCETV News. You can see them discuss this bill, some of that committee work, as well as Cash's comments after committee. So really get a better understanding about things. It seems like he's really just trying to get some sort of consensus at this point as to what he can maybe do next year. And then, of course, that next year will be the 2-year session when the Senate will be up on the tail end of that as well for re-election. So hard to say where this is going, but right now, I mean, I've been hearing a lot of people say, oh my gosh, it could happen, it could get pushed through. What we've been hearing consistently is that there's just no time for it, and there have not been those conversations that need to take place in order to make sure that things like this, so controversial, can make their way through the Senate.
Right. I mean, Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey said last week that if there was a contested piece of legislation, and this certainly would be a contested piece of legislation, it really needed to go through the floor process in the last week. And again, the fact that the Senate GOP leader there's been saying that there's been no conversations around this bill, that is also an indicator that perhaps this bill doesn't have a real confident chance of getting through the upper chamber.
We'll continue to report on any developments when it comes to that bill and others on The Gavel at scetv.org/The Gavel. Mayan, kind of wrapping up before we jump to the other chamber, what are you looking for in the Senate budget debate? Is it similar to as crazy as the House budget debate? How are they different? How are they similar? And what can we expect to see in this process?
Well, first of all, the Senate's process as it debates the budget is entirely different than the House. Obviously, there's no voting board in the Senate, so it's a little bit of a different, I would say sometimes a little bit more vague of a process over what happens. But there are some clear differences in the spending bills, right? And that includes money over roads, in particular infrastructure. We know that there's a big difference between the Captain Sam Spit money. The House put in $32 million for that. The Senate put in $1. Obviously, this isn't really up for much debate, but the Senate did put a lot of money for earmarks in. Those are, we don't see any nonprofits, I believe, but we see a lot of money to local government, some of these in-district projects that lawmakers want to get done. So there are some big differences. I have not covered a budget in the Senate that's gone over a week. I was told by Senate staff there have been budget debates that have gone on multiple weeks. Hoping that that's not the case. Hoping that's not the case, and that we get through. That we get through this week.
I'm wondering, are they going to find that $150 million for the State Department of Commerce when it comes to those cost overruns for that scout site there in Blythewood? Reported on in the Gavel?
That's actually a really great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because both the House and the Senate proposals do not include that $150 million for those cost overruns. The Senate did add a proviso where a one-year holding space. Did add a proviso that basically said if it does get funded, these audits need to happen first before you just get handed the money. And of course, you were with the governor yesterday, who pretty much said this needs to happen.
Yeah, we kind of told them we were going to do this. We got to do it.
And so, there is a real still possibility that the House, which will get the budget again because it is a House bill, they'll get the budget after the Senate passes it. They could, in theory, put that money in there, TBD.
Because they didn't appropriate all the money that they have, and also we're still expecting to see some revenue updates from the BEA as well. So
Possibly
the money tree, but of course, as we've been seeing,
Yeah.
those revenue updates have been a little tight.
stabilized. I don't know how much money
You got $150
lawmakers-
million laying around.
Right. Frank Rainwater, maybe
It's a
they're on the
one-time
phone.
allocation, so there's more of that money, but still.
Sure, absolutely. Look, there's always going to be differences. This is why the budget always goes to a conference committee, right? Both sides will get to hash out all the differences that they have, and I absolutely would expect that to happen in this case.
Gotcha. All right. Well, anything else we need to talk about when we're watching? I'm trying to think. I think we covered everything that's in the gavel besides the bird.
We could talk about
which
the
I
bird.
mispronounced earlier today, so I'm going to probably get emails and calls about
That's
the
right.
Prothonotary warbler.
The more we talk about it, the more I'm going to mispronounce it. Prothonotary warbler,
Prothonotary.
a strikingly beautiful yellow songbird, also called the swamp canary.
I'm here with
Sometimes
ornithologist Mayan Schechter.
you go to one forest, you cover one bird, and you suddenly become the expert. No, I was out in Dorchester County yesterday hanging out with this bird and the governor, Senator Tom Davis.
They had a
among
bird there?
others. They had a bird there. I watched the bird fly into the forest. It got tagged and it flew. So
What a great metaphor for this.
yes. Anyway, this is our new South Carolina state migratory bird,
Prothonotary
Prothonotary.
warbler.
We're going to be
Of course, the
practicing
state
off
bird
names.
is the Carolina wren.
That's right. That's right. Much easier to pronounce.
And there's the blackbird too. But the one that it's like the third bird that they've done. So it's all in the State House website. You can find about everything in the legislative manual, including our state beverages
That's right.
and more at scstatehouse.gov. Of course, if you want to know more about what's going on here at the State House, you can check out the Gavel at scet.org/thegavel. And we'll keep you up to date because it's going to get very busy. It is busy, but it's going to get busier and busier as we approach May 14th, the last day of session, signing days. So that being said, we will leave you to it. We're going to go over to the House. I'm Gavin Jackson with Mayan Schechter. Have a great Tuesday.
All right, if all members record your presence, we're getting ready to get started. We're going to do some introductions, and then we're going to move into the calendar. All right, if all members record your presence. About to close roll call. If all members record your presence. All right, polls are closed. Clerk will tabulate. A quorum is present. All right, members, we're going to get into introductions. Please find your seat. Sergeant, help me show members to where the seats are. If y'all got conversations, take them outside, please. All right, Mr. Ligon. All right, Mr. Huff. Mr. Huff is recognized for a special announcement. Members, you might want to hear this. People up front. Mr. Sessions, Mr. Magnuson, y'all move on, please. Mr. Huff is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Thursday, at around 11 o'clock, I was reminded just what an honor we have in coming here each day and being able to serve the folks of each of our 124 districts, but also the people of the great state of South Carolina. Many of you have reached out since that time, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I hope none of you experience what I did experience on Thursday, but for those of you who do not know, I'll let you know I had a coronary incident Thursday at around 11 o'clock here. The fact that you do not know is one of the things that I'm most thankful for. I want to thank our speaker, all the staff, Mitch, our EMT, all of Mitch's staff, Anna, all those folks, DPS. Guys, there's a procedure that is in place to take care of us very quickly, for one thing, but also to help get us out of here in the most discreet method possibly, as they took me from the cookie room up to the medical room, and then from the medical room to an ambulance out front on a stretcher, and many of you here are hearing this for the first time. They're to be commended for that. The fact that they can make all that happen in such a fast time. I left here at around 11:15, and within about 30 minutes of me leaving here, I've got the scars to show where I was in an emergency cath lab. I will thank the Lord and everybody there at the hospital who attended to that, as all of my arteries are clear. And so it was not a heart attack in the traditional sense. One side of my heart is not functioning the way it should be. This has been going on for a while. I'm one of those people that just, takes another pill and keeps on moving. So I've been popping nitro like Tylenol for a while now. Apparently that's frowned upon. I don't know. At any rate, there were a lot of folks who did a lot of things that they didn't have to do Thursday. I got to the hospital. Pat had already beat me there. He was sitting in the room, made sure everything was safe and ready. And so, guys, I just want you to know, these folks, they do so much more than just stand in here and say hey to us in the morning. These folks that we've got on staff are truly professional folks, and they did a fabulous job for me. And I want each and every person that had anything to do with it, from the doctors upstairs to the EMT to all of our security staff and all, to know just how much you mean to me and just how much you mean to my family, because I got care as fast as I did. I would covet your continued prayers. I will be seeing a specialist Monday who specializes in heart failure, which I didn't really want to hear, but they assure me that right now we're not in a life-threatening situation, so you guys have to still put up with me on a daily basis. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chris. Glad you're doing well, buddy. We're going to keep praying for you. Miss Davis. Chair Lady Davis is recognized for a special announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will be brief on this. Mr. Huff, we're glad you're better, and we're glad you got the attention that you needed. Today, however, we have pound cake in the cookie room. This Swampy pound cake is personally provided by Jimmy Staten, CEO of Santee Cooper and Joy.
All right, thank you. Mr. Grant? Mr. Grant's recognized for a special introduction. Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we have a special group of leaders here in the balcony, and as I speak, I will ask them to stand. We have groups in college students from across the state, with also food share programs, food bank programs, such as Low Country Food Bank, Harvest Hope, Golden Harvest, and a network of provider feeding the Carolinas, along with nonprofits, including Food Share SC and the Student Basic Needs Coalition. And there are students from across the state of South Carolina, to include South Carolina State University, University of South Carolina, Benedict College, Clemson University, Trident Tech, Claflin University, Greenville Tech, Converse University, and several others. And they are here advocating for the importance of food insecurity on college campuses and universities. And so many of them have sent and left literature in your offices, and I would encourage you to look at that and greet these students and these leaders as they are here, so we can address food insecurity on our college campuses. No student should have to go to college or any university and work through that while being hungry. So thank you all for your advocacy. Thank you for what you continue to do, and I look forward to our continued progress together. Welcome to the South Carolina State House.
Welcome to the State House. Hope you enjoy your visit. Thank you for what you do. All right, Mr. Brandon Newton is recognized for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to ask the Lancaster delegation join me up here. I see Representative Mitchell, who does a wonderful job for us down in Kershaw and Flat Creek area. I'm going to ask that Leadership Lancaster please stand up. I know they're in the balcony. It's a big group. So Leadership Lancaster, this is their Capital Day. They're here. We did a tour earlier today. They got to hear my wonderful history lessons of the building, and they've also sadly went to the Gressett building as well. I'm sure they'll regret doing that, but I am excited to have them here. I was a graduate of this program in 2015. Leadership Lancaster is run by the Lancaster County Chamber of Commerce and is a great civic organization to get people acclimated to our community and all things happening in Lancaster County. So just want to say welcome to the State House. Thank you all for being here today, and please join me in welcoming them to the State House.
Welcome to the State House. Hope you enjoy your visit today. All right, Ms. McDaniel. All right, hold on a second. Mr. Mr. Pope. Let Ms. Pope go first real quick, Ms. McDaniel. Mr. Pope is recognized for a special introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to call your attention to the balcony. We have Mr. Herb Kirschman up top with General Jared Lin, the new Taiwanese general in Atlanta, and Miss Ellie Wu. I think a number of you, I know Todd has, Micah maybe has been, Weston has been to Taiwan before, and these are our friends. A couple things they wanted me to point out for you was that this year marks the 250th anniversary of U.S. independence and Taiwan's 30th anniversary of the first direct presidential elections. This milestone highlights their shared belief that democracy is strengthened through participation, resilience, and the will of the people. In 2025, U.S. is the largest trading partner for Taiwan. Taiwan is the fourth largest trading partner for the U.S. Earlier this year, both countries signed a memorandum of understanding on investment and agreement on trade. These two agreements give momentum for a better relationship in trade and investment between the two. We hope to see deeper engagements on both sides in trade and investments in the future. I want to tell you, when I went to Taiwan, you guys have heard me so many times talk about my good friend Sam. When I went to Taiwan, I've been personally a couple times. I've been with the government, but last time we actually went to the Air Force Base, and we were out much like we did down here. We were out at the Air Force Base, and I was talking to the general as he's watching the jets take off. And he looked at me, and you guys from Beaufort County know this. He looked at me and said, "That's the sound of freedom." And I thought, we say it a lot, but those guys were taking off on a mission patrolling the Taiwanese Strait between China and Taiwan. So I can tell you the country of Taiwan loves our country, they love democracy, and they are fighting every day to maintain their democracy and not be brought under communist China rule. And it's easy us to think about it at a distance, but these folks are living it, and it's an honor to call them friends. It's an honor to have a relationship with their government. We've always supported them, and I pray that we continue to do so. So if you could, welcome these folks to the House. Thank you.
Welcome to the State House. Good to see you. Hope you all enjoy your visit. Thank you for your friendship. Ms. McDaniel, you're recognized for 3 introductions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members, for your attention while I introduce this group, the first group, and it's the South Carolina Energy Justice Coalition. And we will ask you to please stand. And Mr. Speaker, before I read the introduction, I just want to acknowledge to the members that if they would look up in the balcony, they would see the beautiful children, the little ones who have come to witness how we take care of business. They visited us in the Black Caucus meeting this morning, and they asked questions. They are inquiring minds that want to know, so they are asking the questions. So the South Carolina Energy Justice Coalition is here today having their 3rd annual Advocacy Day, and this year's theme is They Got Next. They have brought energy advocates from across the state and various members of the SCEJC, as well as young people from the Center for Learning and Sowing Seeds into the Midlands. Now, I would like the Center for Learning young people to just raise their hands so they can see you all. Yeah. The SCEJC is on a mission to embed fairness into our energy system and create more opportunities for communities to be involved in the legislative process and to be involved in creating a fair and just energy system for all of us. So, Mr. Speaker, you can join me in recognizing our Justice for Energy folk that's in the balcony.
Welcome to the State House. Hope you enjoy your visit today. Appreciate you being here. All right, Ms. McDaniel is recognized for another recognition. Ms. McDaniel.
Mr. Speaker. Next, Mr. Speaker, this introduction has more to do with the illness that I think all of us have someone who have been victimized by it, and it's breast cancer. So we have Deandra Newsom in the gallery, and she came to us this morning to talk to us about a bill that's being put forward with regards to breast cancer. So I'm going to read what they've asked me to read for them. So we welcome Susan G. Komen. Komen is the world's leading nonprofit breast cancer organization, representing the millions of people who have been diagnosed with breast cancer. Komen has an unmatched, comprehensive, 360-degree approach to fighting this disease across all fronts. We advocate for patients, drive research breakthroughs, improve access to health quality care, other direct patient support, and empower people with trustworthy information. Komen is committed to supporting those affected by breast cancer today, while timeless searching and tomorrow's cures. We advocate on behalf of the estimated 6,030 people in the state of South Carolina who will be diagnosed with breast cancer and the 800 who will die from the disease in 2026 alone. So I also want you to know that Deandra Newsom is a former representative for Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and she wanted to make sure that we acknowledge her presence and the bill that we will be bringing up, and I will remind you that she came here to talk to us about that bill. So if you would join me in welcoming Deandra Newsom with the Komen Breast Cancer Awareness.
Welcome to the State House. Hope you enjoy your visit. Thank you for what you do for our great state. We appreciate it. All right. All right. I think that's all the announcements. Any further announcements? All right, let me make members listen up. Y'all want to know this on behalf of Representative Gilliard. He reminds me that Mayor Cogswell and the city of Charleston invites you tomorrow to Charleston Day, a legislative reception. It's at Parker Poe at 1221 Main Street from 5:30 to 7. I mean, that's tonight, so not tomorrow. So please make sure you attend that. All right, Mr. Ligon is recognized for a quick announcement. Mr. Ligon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We would invite my good friend, Mr. Hosey's coming up. Any other veterans would like to be up here, the military caucus. We got a man's man, a veteran's man here to recognize today from Chester. We appreciate y'all's attention. Mr. Hosey, good to see you this morning. I want you to meet this young man later. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to recognize retired Master Sergeant Alfonso J. Boyd, affectionately known as Al, back in Chester. Al, stand up for us while we're talking. Thank you. You're a small guy. I wouldn't want anybody to miss you up there. He is being recognized as the 2025-26 South Carolina Veteran of the Year for his many years of distinguished service to Chester County, the state of South Carolina, and the United States of America. Thank you, Al. I can't read the pages and pages of accolades over the years. Al is a Chester native who went off to service for 22 years and then came home. And I always say, Al, that's one of the greatest things that we say about you and all of the students you've influenced over the years. You got a lot of them to come back home to Chester, and we appreciate that. He's up there with his lovely wife, Janice, who really keeps him straight right there beside him. She's really the boss, because we all know Al very well back in Chester for all the work he's done in the school system. Louisville, Great Falls, and Chester ROTC programs are all good programs, great programs, because Al got them started and treated them so well for so long. And Al, I didn't know this, that you found the 3 native Chester County generals. Listen, Chester County has 3 generals native to Chester County. He had them for dinner with a general ceremony. And he's also started a program called the Vietnam Veteran Widows Program. And we appreciate that recognition as a Vietnam Veterans Widows Program. And we appreciate that. So, and Al's he's always thinking and giving. He gives a lot to his church. We all affectionately know him as the guy with the big motorcycle that has the Ride for Jesus rally every year in Chester County, and we appreciate what all he's done. Unfortunately, I can't read off everybody's name, but Janice, I appreciate you being there. Senator Stubbs just recognized him on the Senate side. And I guess lastly, Al, is it okay to say that we recognize you now on the streets of Chester as Judge Al Boyd? Mr. Speaker, he is one of our magistrates and newly appointed magistrate in Chester County, and we appreciate him stepping up and continuing to serve as a magistrate in Chester County. So, ladies and gentlemen, please recognize this great veteran from Chester County, Al Boyd. Thank you, Al.
Congratulations, Al. Appreciate your service to the state, this nation. Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Williams. All right, Mr. Williams is recognized for a special introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask that the Darlington delegation to come and join me if they're available. Okay, if not, I'm going to move on, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving us this opportunity to introduce Robert Anthony. Originally from Darlington, graduated from Mayo High School in the class of 1995. Robert currently lives in Atlanta, Georgia. He's an independent artist, singer, songwriter, and an actor. Auditioned for the 4th season on American Idol. Had the opportunity to sing on stage with Toni Braxton and some of the world finest twice in Atlanta. He's the executive producer and the lead actor in the independent film called To Each Its Own, currently on YouTube channel with over 50,000 viewers. The latest CD titled Love Letter is available now on all streaming platforms. We'll be in concert this Saturday in Jonesboro, Georgia. And Mr. Speaker, I just ask that a native of Darlington, a native of South Carolina, we recognize this young man for his many talents, his skill, and his performance ability. We just want to welcome him to the South Carolina State General Assembly, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Welcome to the State House. Congratulations. Appreciate what you do. All right, Ms. Stavronakis is recognized for a special introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Charleston delegation, we could get the Charleston delegation up here. Happy to be joined by Representative Gilliard and the rest of the Charleston delegation to recognize some important special guests. We're hope everyone knows it's City of Charleston Day at the State House, and the city will be hosting members of the General Assembly this evening. But today on the floor, we're proud to be joined by our mayor. Mayor, where are you? William Cogswell, former member of the House. Mayor, thank you for being here. Thank you for your work for the city. The mayor is joined by a number of members of City Council: Leslie Scarden, Stephen Bowden, Boyd Gregg, Mike Seekings, William Tinkler, Ross Appel, Keith Waring, Aaron Polke, and Ben D'Alessandro. Chief Cheeto Walker is also here, I believe. I see Councilmember Waring as well. Chief Walker's here, and Fire Chief Curia is here as well. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your work for the city of Charleston, And we look forward to spending time with you this evening. By the way, Charleston Day Legislative Reception is at Parker Poe Law Firm from 5:30 to 7 p.m. tonight. And I know the mayor and the members would love it if members of the General Assembly would join them for a few minutes this evening. So thank you all for being here. Let's give them all a warm welcome to the State House.
Welcome to State House. Hope you enjoy your visit. Thank you for what you do. All right, members, let me make an announcement. We got a special occasion here in the body. And for those of you who don't know, our education chair lady, Shannon Erickson, it's her birthday. Happy birthday. Happy 32nd birthday, Shannon. All right, members, we're on the calendar. So, Clerk will read.
Yes, sir. Introducing invitations for the month of May.
Mr. Taylor moves to accept the invitations. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, ayes have it. The invitations are accepted. Clerk will read.
Senate amendments to 3650 Merle Smith.
Senate amendments.
We have 8 Ways and Means Committee report. Favorable as is 5093 Caskey.
Committee report.
We have Ways and Means favorable as is 5208 Brandon Newton.
Committee report.
Ways and Means favorable with amendment Mr. Bannister's House Bill 4576.
Committee report.
Senate reported favorable. Member of the Board of Massage Therapy, reappointment of Ms. Bailey B.R. Maddox of Columbia.
Ms. Maddox will be confirmed to the Board of Massage Therapy.
Senate reports favorable on a member of the State Board of Nursing representing General Public, reappointment of Lindsay K. Mitchum of Camden.
Question is confirmation for the State Board of Nursing, General Public. The individual is confirmed.
Senate reports favorable member of the Board of Long-Term Health Care Administrators. Initial appointment of Mr. Raymond Tiller of Nichols.
The individual is confirmed for the Board of Long-Term Health Care Administrators. The individual is confirmed.
Senate is reported favorable member of the South Carolina Board of Occupational Therapy, reappointment of Mr. Ricardo Holmes of Columbia.
Question is confirmation of the individual for the South Carolina Board of Occupational Therapy and is confirmed. Continue to read.
Senate has reported favorable on the State Child Advocate, initial appointment of Margaret Fent Bodman of Columbia.
Question is confirmation of Margaret Bodman for State Child Advocate. Individual is confirmed by the Senate pursuant to the unanimous consent request. Reading clerk will continue to read.
Senate has reported favorable member of the South Carolina Ports Authority, initial appointment of Mr. Thomas A. Limehouse Jr. of Charleston.
Question is confirmation of Thomas A. Limehouse Jr., South Carolina Ports Authority. By previous unanimous consent order, the individual is confirmed. Reading clerk will continue to read.
Senate has reported favorable on a member of the Board of Examiners in Speech, Language, Pathology, and Audiology, reappointment of Sarah Davis Emery of Spartanburg.
Question is confirmation of the individual for the Board of Examiners in Speech, Language, Pathology, and Audiology. The individual is confirmed pursuant to the unanimous consent motion. Continue to read.
Senate reports favorable. Member of the Board of Examiners in Speech, Language, Pathology, and Audiology, reappointment of Mrs. Beth Finley Montgomery of Columbia.
Question is confirmation of Ms. Montgomery, the Board of Examiners in Speech, Language, Pathology, and Audiology, and is confirmed by the Senate.
Senate has reported favorable a reappointment of a member to the South Carolina Arts Commission, reappointment of Mrs. Flavia B. Harton of Greenville.
Question is confirmation of Ms. Harton for the South Carolina Arts Commission and is confirmed.
Senate reports favorable member of the South Carolina Board of Social Work Examiners, reappointment of Mr. Jeffrey Cameron of Greer.
Question is confirmation for the South Carolina Board of Social Worker Examiners, Mr. Cameron. The individual is confirmed.
Senate reports favorable member of the Board of Social Work Examiners, reappointment of Dale A. Lancaster of Columbia.
Question is confirmation of the individual, Mr. Lancaster, for the South Carolina Board of Social Work Examiners and is confirmed by the Senate.
Senate reports favorable member of the Foster Care Review Board, initial appointment from the 2nd Congressional District of Mrs. Cheryl Azuri Long of Blackfield.
Question is confirmation for the South Carolina Foster Care Review Board, Mrs. Long. By order of the unanimous consent, the individual is confirmed. Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Martin, what purpose do you ask?
I rise to make an introduction for the President.
You're recognized for introduction. Please give your attention to the Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Martin, for this introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have with us today, on behalf of the President, we have the Director General, Jared Lynn, if you would stand up. And I know she probably doesn't want an introduction, but his assistant, Ellie, has been here for a long time working on issues for us. He serves as the head of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Atlanta. He represents Taiwan across 6 southeastern states: Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. He has over 20 years of diplomatic experience, including postings in Washington, Brussels, Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's fluent in Mandarin, Taiwanese, and English, with additional skills in Japanese, French, and Spanish. So we might get you to help us write a budget proviso in one of those languages. Brings a wealth of experience in international cooperation for U.S. and Taiwan relations and global engagement. He and his staff do a great job of reaching out to us and keeping us informed on what's going on is important to our mutual states. And I really appreciate you being here today. And on behalf of President Alexander, the Senate welcomes you to our State House.
Welcome to the Senate. We're honored to have you visiting with us today, and thank you for your service. We're grateful to you. Please join me in welcoming
Mr. President,
I'm sorry.
I want to yield the podium to the Senator from Charleston.
Senator from Charleston, Senator Sutton.
Just wanted to add, the Director General and I had a great conference this past Friday down at the Citadel in Charleston. And for folks that don't know, the Citadel has a 40-year history of training future Taiwanese military officers for all branches, including one of my classmates that I went through with is now a lieutenant colonel in the Taiwanese Army. And if anybody has interest in joining the Taiwanese caucus, please let us know. Senator Clymer and I are co-chairs. Obviously, Senator Clymer is moving on here shortly, so we'll need a new Republican co-chair here in a little bit. But if you have any interest in joining this caucus, please let us know. Taiwan and South Carolina have a great relationship. They're big trade partners of ours, and it's important that we have a good, strong caucus here in the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome. Good to see you. Thank you. The reading clerk will continue to read.
Senate has reported favorable on a member of the Foster Care Review Board reappointment from the 5th Congressional District of Mrs. Mary D. Long of Camden.
The Pending question is confirmation of Ms. Long for the South Carolina Foster Care Review Board. By previous order, the individual is confirmed.
Senate reports favorable. Member of the Board of Social Work Examiners, reappointment of Alicia Lane Alderson of Columbia.
Pending question is confirmation of Ms. Nix to the South Carolina Board of Social Work Examiners. By previous order, the individual is confirmed by the Senate.
Senate reports favorable. Member of the Foster Care Review Board, 3rd Congressional District, reappointment of Mr. George E. Jones, Jr. of Greenwood.
Question is confirmation. Mr. Jones for the South Carolina Foster Care Review Board and is approved by the Senate.
Senate reports favorable. Member of the Foster Care Review Board from the 4th Congressional District, reappointment of Mrs. Jane W. Daniel of Greer.
Question is confirmation. Mrs. Daniel for the South Carolina Foster Care Review Board. By order of the Senate, the individual is confirmed by a vote of the Senate. Senator from York, Senator Clymer, what purpose do you rise, sir?
President, I guess parliamentary inquiry, would it be in order to do a point of personal interest at this juncture?
I'll accept this as being an appropriate time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite the senators from Darlington and Calhoun to join me up here. Mr. President.
Senator from York, Senator Clymer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, there's no sugarcoating the situation that our state is in right now with regard to our agricultural economy. It is in absolute crisis right now. We've distributed this document. Many of you, I hope, got it in your offices or on your way out the door on Thursday. We can pass it around again later today. Our row croppers, net of all governmental support, net of everything, over the last 2 years have experienced over $700 million in crop losses. Some of this is a function of structural economic trends. Some of this is a function of weather. Regardless, it has happened. And our family farms across this state are in crisis. We are on the precipice of a collapse of small family farms across the entirety of our state. It's real. It's not hyperbole. It is happening. And as we get into our budget debate later today, tomorrow, and Thursday, the group up here, and with many of you who are not yet up at the well, we will present you with some ideas for how we can salvage as many of these small family farms as possible. We are an agrarian state. We always have been. It is core to our culture. It is who we are. We risk losing that in a significant way if the state government does not intercede. And to those of you who are worried about the trajectory of growth across our state, to those of you who are concerned with the massive influx of population and the sort of negative externalities associated with that, if you really want to put the brakes on that, the best thing you can do is to help make farming profitable again. Because when that developer comes and knocks on the farmer's door and he doesn't have enough money to plant this year's crop, knows that if he puts it in the ground, he's going to lose money on it. It's a very different answer under those circumstances than when the farm is healthy and productive. And I'll yield now to any of my fellow senators who wish to discuss further on this subject.
Senator from Calhoun is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, I certainly appreciate the remarks from the chairman
of agriculture, and obviously just want to stand up here before you today and reiterate some of that. You know, as someone who is, you know, I look around the room and I see a lot of folks that are tied to agriculture in some form or fashion, and I'm certainly one of those. Many of you know that grew up on the farm, still farm with my family today, and I think I just want to reiterate what Chairman of Ag just said about this. You know, look, nobody likes to be able to have to come and tell a story of an entire industry kind of on the brink, if that makes sense to you, and ultimately try to paint the picture to have your hands out and ask for a little bit of help. But I'm certainly doing that today on behalf of all of our farmers across the state of South Carolina. As the chairman said, this is real. And it's a lot of things converging. You know, we could stand up here all day and debate why we are in the position that we're currently in. There's a lot of different thoughts on that, but we're here nonetheless. As I think about Senator Chapman behind me, it's certainly been exacerbated by unfortunate weather conditions that we've been facing. You know, haven't had any rain to speak of really across the state, and probably coming on close to a month now. So a lot of folks that typically would have planted a lot more corn this year have quit planting weeks ago. There's no moisture to get it up. Some people would contend that that's going to end up saving them money by not planting the corn, because as I've continued to look at it over and over, none of it pencils out to a profit. As far as the commodity crops, many of you know, when I say commodity crops, I'm talking about crops that are priced Chicago boards. As you know, farmers don't get to say, I'm going to sell a bushel of my corn for anything other than what that bushel of corn is actually going for. Same with cotton, same with any of our other commodity crops, and that's what's unfortunate. I've often said I don't know of another business model across history or the country where you got folks that are buying at wholesale input costs, buying at retail rates, and then turning around and selling the products that they are producing at wholesale rates. That is completely backwards, but that's what farmers have to do each and every year. And just to reiterate where we are, I was with JD or Senator Chapman and I were doing some research just a second ago. In 1990, it cost about $400, give or take, to produce an acre of cotton.
The senator from York, Senator Clymer's time has expired. Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Martin, what purpose do you rise?
I was watching the clock and was already risen to request an additional 5 minutes for them.
Is there objection to the unanimous consent request for an additional 5 minutes? Hear no objection.
Certainly
So
appreciate the senator from Spartanburg. Thank you, Mr. President. In 1990, it cost about $400 to grow an acre of cotton. In 2026, it's going to cost roughly $1,000 per acre to grow an acre of cotton. We were looking at the numbers. Cotton right now is basically selling today in 2026 for essentially the same amount of money that it sold for in 1990. We're call it 70 cents per pound. That's pretty much where we are. So we have more than doubled the production cost, and we've stayed at the same level over the course of the last 36 years. We're at the same spot. For corn, mid-90s, you're looking at about $4.65 per bushel. I think we priced it a little while ago. We're right at that same amount. Whereas, at that same time period, for an acre of corn, it would cost you around $200 to $250 to grow that acre of corn. And right now, today, it costs you about $900 to grow that same acre of corn. So, you put all of that together, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why this is real. There's nothing that we can do up here this week that is absolutely going to save everyone. There are going to be farmers in your communities that go out of business this year. That is the sad reality of where we are. But I agree, we need to do everything that we can to try to save as many of them as we possibly can. Not save them. Let me take that back. This is to try to provide a bridge to get them to next year. That's all we can hope for. And hope then that macroeconomics, conditions around the world, the price of fertilizer, the cost of seed, hopefully someone at the federal level acknowledges that we are in a global economy and that we are dependent upon people buying the products that the United States produces. Hopefully we can get to that point very soon. I would just simply ask that you consider trying to help some folks hold on as long as we possibly can. Thank you, Mr.
from
President.
Charleston, Senator Campson, what purpose do you ask, sir?
Would the Senator for Calhoun yield?
For a question, Senator yields for a question.
Happy to, Mr. President.
Did you know, I'm aware of this problem because I've been trying to plant food plots that aren't growing too well, number one. But number two, I just planted pine trees in the winter when you need to plant pine trees, when you do a clear cut and you replant. And those trees aren't, the saplings, they aren't dead yet, but I think they're going to die. I think, so you have the timber, the point I'm making is, did you know, the timber industry is in a crisis too, if they've planted saplings this past winter, because there's been no rain, well, I don't know, a month and a half or 2 months, something like that. This is as dry as I've ever seen it.
You're right, and that's also coupled with the lack of demand for wood products currently. We've had multiple mills, as you know, across the state of South Carolina that have closed. We've got opportunities, though. There's new technology out there that hopefully, that we'll invest in or help those entrepreneurs that want to invest in new technology that could be coupled together to help both the timber industry and the agricultural industry. The row crop guys, price of diesel fuel is one of the things that is really holding a lot of farmers back right now. We can make diesel fuel, we can make biodiesel out of the wood that's in the state of South Carolina.
But, so would you be amicable to providing in your budget proviso, your budget amendment, including loss of planted, if you planted saplings and you're in the forestry industry, having them be able to use this relief as well?
I guess, Senator, I think that we have to consider everything. I'm certainly not saying no. I think, unfortunately, just like we have to do every year with the budget, we're going to have to make hard decisions with where our priorities lie. Yes, I think that the timber industry and the ag industry right now need to be at the top of our priority list. Because as the chairman said a little while ago, if a farmer, if a landowner is not able to make money off of that land, then odds are they're going to sell it. And then there's going to be tract homes on that land.
They're going to grow rooftops instead of...
Senator, the additional 5 minutes has expired. Senator from Horry, Senator Rankin, what purpose do you raise?
Unanimous consent for 30 more seconds for the response and no more time for the questions from the senator from Charleston.
Is the objection?
I'll amend that.
Objection is heard.
I'll amend that. 3 minutes for this exchange and perhaps others who may want to have a quicker question and quicker answer of someone else.
Is there objection to the additional 3 minutes?
If it makes you feel any better, Senator, I thought he was coming at me with the limit on the time to talk, but that's it. I agree with you 100%. I don't have any problem. I don't think anybody has any problem with trying to also give attention. But, look, there's lots of different crops that are being grown. There's specialty crops. There's fruits, vegetables. There's timber. I don't know what we can do or if we can for everyone. And I certainly can't make that decision independently, but I would just ask this body to give it the level of attention that I believe that it needs to try to come up with some solutions.
Well, the timber industry, as you know, is in crisis mode, and this drought is even affecting that. It's the first year that I've ever really seen that, but it is affecting that, and I think we ought to consider that as well.
Senator from Ori, Senator Rankin, what purpose do you have, sir?
See if I could ask a question of the senator, or the chairman of the committee real quick.
Senator from York, Senator Clymer.
And I apologize, Senator, I didn't get up soon enough to ask you a question, but no disrespect, but I have heard that this ask will approach $1 billion. Or do you have a definition of what amount that you are asking for, or will be come time for this proviso? And if you don't, that's okay. But I'm trying to define, as you're early on announcing this effort, do we have...
I'm instructed by the senator from Calhoun that we'd happily meet you in the middle, but even that, even meeting you in the middle far exceeds where we are right now at the relief at the current stage.
Okay, but again, so help me define it. What is the amount you're thinking that y'all will be asking for, or is that undefined at this point?
The federal government has offered crop support to the tune of roughly $70 million.
For South Carolina?
For South Carolina, yeah.
All right.
Or at least that's roughly what South Carolina producers have received. And so our aim is to match that 50 cents on the dollar.
Okay. And have we ever done that before, where South Carolina has upped the ante? Again, harken back where we had to fight the Governor Haley, to take the federal money, which we ultimately did. But have we ever, as a state, upped the ante to get additional relief that the federal government has allocated?
I don't recall from my time in the Senate, but your service preceded mine.
And I don't either. And if we're not able to do that this go round, again, not foretelling what this debate will be, when we get a new congressman from maybe your part of the world, I hope next year it will be $140 million for South Carolina.
And thank you, Senator from Ori. And I'm desperate to yield to my colleague, the senator from Darlington, who has been very patient in waiting to take the well.
Well, yeah. Well, the time is, the additional 3 minutes has expired. Senator from Kershaw, what purpose do you have?
Consent for them to have 3 more minutes on the topic for Senator from Darlington. 5, if that's what you want, Mr. President.
We'll do the 3. Is there objection to 3 minutes? There's no objection. So ordered. Senator from Darlington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to take this opportunity to focus on something else that the agricultural community is dealing with at this exact same time. Growing up, I used to hear horror stories about what went down in the 80s, what went down on the farm back when interest rates were sky high. And I'm being told by several of my colleagues in the agriculture industry what we're facing right now, what we are looking and going through right now is worse than what they faced in the 80s. Farm Bureau has a hotline where farmers can call for mental health issues. As I'm sure many of y'all know, suicide among the agricultural community is one of the highest of any occupation. Years of living out by yourself in isolation, combined with the stress of generational farms being stacked on top of you, are you going to be the one that loses it for your son after you have inherited and passed it on? That hotline is being blown up right now, seeing more activity than it has ever received. A lot of people in my industry are finding out that right now they are literally worth more dead than alive. I've heard several stories about my father's friends in the 80s and some of the terrible things they did. And I am honestly concerned every time my phone rings that I'm going to be getting a phone call about a friend of mine who has done the same thing. It's hard. It's very difficult what's going on in our industry right now. I know it's easy to stand up here and give numbers and say, this is what we need, this will fix it. Well, it's going to be a whole lot more than numbers that's needed to fix it. It's going to take a lot. What is that answer? I cannot honestly stand here and tell you exactly this is what we need to do to fix it. But I can tell you something we desperately need, and that is time. We need time to be able to fix it, and right now, the clock is out. As you've heard the president say many times up here, that's time. We've ran out. Unanimous consent for some more time? Well, I promise you, there's no unanimous consent for more time from a bank. There's no unanimous consent for more time to let it rain. There's no unanimous consent for more time to allow the field to harvest, to ripen. That's not an option out there. And right now, that time is out, and we're looking for any way we possibly can to extend it. This is a whole lot more than just numbers. This is the future of our state as a whole at risk right now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Darling. Senator from Orangeburg. What purpose do you have, sir?
Unanimous consent request.
State your request.
Point of personal expression.
Yes, sir. We're in that time frame, so I'm. Senator from Orangeburg, up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm not going to try to take that long, but I want, the senator from York got up and said, let's not sugarcoat this, and so I didn't want the moment to pass by without me not sugarcoating this. I grew up on a farm. I know how tough it can be. We've all dealt with weather over time, but this year, if you listen to the senator from Calhoun, he said the price of diesel, the price of fertilizer, the rates that you can sell for, all of that's coming out of Washington, D.C., and it wasn't from the body that you were going to be elected to. It's coming out of the executive who put tariffs on these products, who has gotten us into a war that's inflated the cost of diesel and inflated the cost of fertilizer. And so let's not sugarcoat it.
Thank you, Senator from Orangeburg. Senator from Darlington, what purpose do you ask, sir?
See if the senator yield for a quick question.
Senator yield for a question. Senator yields for a question.
Did you know this crisis has been going on for much longer than that, and someone else was president in 2020?
I do. But I'm telling you,
Just making sure you're aware.
Nobody's come before us to ask for money out of this budget until this year.
The reading clerk will continue to read. Senator from Collinton, what purpose do you ask?
Unanimous consent request.
State your request.
That the words of the senator from Calhoun initially be placed in the journal. The initial words.
Is there objection to the unanimous consent request? Hearing no objection, so ordered. Reading clerk, Senator from Charleston, Senator Sutton, what purpose do you have?
Brief introduction.
You're recognized for a brief introduction. Senator from Charleston, Senator Sutton.
All right, if you represent Charleston County or a portion of Charleston County, feel free to join me up here. And you may also be asking why we have a senator from Pickens County and a senator from Lancaster with me as well, is because they both are unanimous in their favorite member of Charleston City Council, and that is Councilman Appel, who is up there in the balcony and joined us today. And myself, Senator Grooms, Senator Blackman, Senator Rice had the opportunity to do some traveling with Councilman Appel during the off session, and was a fantastic tour guide, and these guys wanted to be here to recognize you as well. But if you haven't figured out by now, it's Charleston Day up here at the Capitol, so we have with us the city of Charleston. I'll read off some additional council members up there. By the way, Ross, you're my third favorite councilman. The number one goes to Ben D'Alessandro because he has delicious pizza. But Councilwoman Leslie Scardon's with us, Councilman Stephen Bowden, Councilman Greg Boyd, Councilman Mike Seekings, Councilman William Tinkler, Councilman Ross Appel, Councilman Keith Waring, Councilman Aaron Polkay, and Councilman Ben D'Alessandro. We also have the Chief of Police, Cheeto Walker, and also the Fire Chief, Dan Carrera. Thank you guys for coming up here. Also, thank you for the collaborative nature in which we worked together to solve our common problems. Of course, in the Senate, you guys hear me talk a lot about restaurants, our tourism industry, flooding, all top of mind issues for Charleston. Mayor Cogswell, I appreciate everything that you're doing to address flooding and also housing as well. I know those are big priorities for you, big priorities here as well in the Senate. So thank you so much for that. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to anybody else that wants to welcome Charleston to the Senate today.
Please.
All right, just me.
Please stand and be recognized. We're honored to have you visiting with us today. Enjoy your visit here to the State Senate. Great to see y'all. Thank you, Senator from Charleston, Senator Sutton, and many others. Senator from Calhoun, what purpose do you rise?
Unanimous consent request, Mr. President.
State your request.
That the words from the senator from Darlington, the remarks that he made on the agricultural situation be recorded in the journal as well.
Is there objection to the unanimous consent request by the senator from Calhoun that the remarks of the senator from Darlington be placed in the journal? Hear no objection. So ordered. Senator from Richland, Senator Jackson, what purpose do you rise, sir?
Mr. President, I have a unanimous consent request
State your request.
that the words of the senator from Orangeburg, Senator Hutto, be also placed in the journal.
Is,
Okay.
is there, I'm sorry?
You want to do that?
Objection, sir.
Mr. President, then I object to all the others as well.
I think the point is those objections are too late. I'd already granted those. The reading clerk will continue to read.
Senate has reported favorable statewide appointment, member of the Jobs Economic Development Authority, representing the 1st Congressional District, initial appointment of Mr. Mark Stacy of Mount Pleasant.
Question is confirmation for the Jobs Economic Development Authority, Mr. Mark Stacy. By previous order, the individual is confirmed. Reading clerk will continue to read.
Senate has reported favorable member of the South Carolina Foster Care Review Board from the 7th Congressional District, initial appointment of Felicia B. Miles of Myrtle Beach.
Question is confirmation of Ms. Miles for the South Carolina Foster Board Review Board. The individual is confirmed.
Senate reports favorable. Interim Director of the South Carolina State Election Commission, Mr. Joseph Belangia of Malden.
Question is South Carolina State Election Commission. Individual is confirmed by previous unanimous consent. The desk is clear. Are there any requests for local bills? Any request? Local bills. Final request. Hearing none, we go to page 1. General Appropriations Bill. Senator from Cherokee, Chairman of the Finance Committee, what purpose do you rise, sir?
Unanimous consent request, Mr. President.
State your request, sir.
I ask unanimous consent to make a motion that the report of the Senate Finance Committee be adopted, with all members reserving their right to raise any points of order and to offer amendments without regard to questions of degree. The purpose of this motion is to use the Finance Committee version of the Appropriations Bill as the base to which other amendments are drafted and offered.
Is there objection to the unanimous consent request? Hear no objections. So ordered. Senator from Cherokee.
Mr. President, I have another unanimous consent request.
State that request, yes, sir.
I ask unanimous consent to make a motion that the staff members from the Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office be authorized as necessary to be in the area behind the rail, and further, that the Senate Finance Committee staff and other Senate staff designated by the President be admitted to the floor of the Senate chamber while debate is in progress on H. 5126, the General Appropriations Bill.
Is there objection to the unanimous consent request? Hearing no objection, so ordered. Senator from Cherokee. Recognized on. You're recognized on H 5126, Senator from Cherokee.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. The budget we're about to begin shows budget discipline and is balanced. It fully pays for both the decrease in income tax rate as well as the increase in the homestead exemption from $50,000 to $150,000. This amounts to over $1.8 billion in income and property tax relief since fiscal year 23. It responsibly funds core functions of state government. It fully funds the constitutionally required reserve funds that totals $1.4 billion. It raises starting teacher pay to a minimum of $50,500, and it provides state employees a 2% pay increase. It also matches what the House has in their budget, and also the $50,500 is a request of the governor. It ensures that state employees and teachers' health insurance premiums do not increase. It funds law enforcement by providing funding for retention. It continued improvements to infrastructure with an additional $189 million for bridge repair, an additional $200 million to county transportation committees. It provides over $72.8 million for disaster relief. This budget allows the taxpayers of the state to keep more of their hard-earned money in their pockets while providing for the core functions of state government. Now, Mr. President, I'd like to recognize the chairman of, from Dorchester, Senator Bennett.
Senator from Dorchester, what purpose do you rise, sir?
I'd give an explanation of the K-12 budget.
You're recognized. Senator from Dorchester is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Chairman, for the work on the budget this year. I rise today to give an update on the K through 12 budget. But before I start, I want to thank our committee members, the Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Martin, the Senator from Horry, Senator Embry, Senator from Marion, Senator Williams, Senator from York, Senator Clymer, for their work on this budget. I'm going to be brief, members, because we're lean. We created a tight budget within the Education Subcommittee. And the reason for that is because of what this body has done over the past few years of really trying to tighten up the formulas involved with funding education. As you know, most of our funding that we put forward in K-12 goes to provide teachers in the classroom. That's what the formula is based on, and that's what we're trying to achieve. This year, I'm proud to say that we have increased the starting teacher salary to $50,500. Members, 6 years ago, 6 fiscal years, the starting teacher salary in South Carolina was $35,000. So in a relatively short period of time, we have put our money, they say, where our proverbial mouth is, to fund those teacher salaries. We've added $150 million state aid to classroom line this year, total general fund appropriation just under $4 million, with EIA appropriations of about $760 million. The budget contains $50 million for rural and charter capital funding fund, a fund that schools can access to help them with their physical plant in physical locations across the state. We added another $20 million for the school safety grants program. The budget contains a little over $83 million for the Education Scholarship Trust Fund. This money plus the carry forward money from last year will fund 15,000 scholarships within the program. The budget contains $2 million in additional recurring funds for school buses and 14 for non-recurring for buses. 11 million recurring is in the base for the school buses already, and total money for the budget is 13 million recurring and 14 non-recurring to replace those school buses. Budget contains $4 million in additional and recurring dollars on instructional materials and $34 million in non-recurring funds for instructional materials. So the core functions of education, I think, are well covered in this budget. A couple of areas also, however, to highlight that I think you will all be interested in. We've added additional funds to expand access to K-4 through South Carolina, not only through First Steps and the normal funding of that, but also $5 million in additional funding to provide for some innovative programming within the K-4 space. We've funded a program within the Department of Education, Disconnect to Reconnect. And that is primarily designed, at least in the early stages for 3rd to 5th grade, is to remove those kids from the screens, get kids off of screens and into their studies, into playtime, into social interaction. And of course, we've continued the funding so that the State Museum can continue their renovations, which if you have not been down there, I would encourage you to go. It is truly a jewel to South Carolina. So that is quickly a brief highlight. Look forward as we go through the process to answer any questions you all may have. And at this time, hand it over to the
Senator from Orangeburg. What purpose do you rise?
See if you can answer a quick question.
I'll give it a shot, sir.
You touched on the scholarships that we're going to fund 15,000 this year. I'm getting a lot of emails over the weekend about whether the homeschoolers are in or out. And I know there was sort of some of them, the unbundling, be the homeschool 4s and the homeschool 1, 2, 3s. Can you explain briefly who's in and who's out?
Senator, I probably am not the best one to explain who's in, who's out at this time. I know the senator from Horry, the Education Committee chairman, put in a proviso and an adjustment to the proviso. At this point, from last year, those unbundlers, as they call, are in the system. But I think there are going to be proposed changes to that moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, with that, I will hand it over to the senator from Newberry.
Senator from Newberry, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, to give a report on the Budget Subcommittee for Higher Education.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as the senator from Dorchester said, I was the chair of the Higher Education Budget Subcommittee, and I'd like to recognize the members of that subcommittee. We had from Richland, Senator Jackson, from Greenville, Senator Corbin and Senator Turner, both, and then from Aiken, Senator Young. Mr. President, I'd like to say, too, probably the most important of this member of this subcommittee was our finance staff person, and that's Mr. Jake Scoggins, and I'd like to point Jake out at this time. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you for the way you conduct the Finance Committee meetings on the budget for next year. I think you did an outstanding job, and I think that you have one of the best staffs that we have in state government, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. President, the higher education appropriations contained in the Finance Committee report continue our commitment to ensure access and affordability to our colleges and universities for students and their families. It provides reasonable tuition mitigation funding that continues to stabilize undergraduate tuition for in-state students. And I'd like to add, unfortunately, this year we had to go with what we had put in the budget for last year, because we did, Mr. Chairman, we did quite a few budget cuts for our citizens out there in the state. So we did come up with quite a bit of tuition mitigation, and I think right now, I know I spoke with the president of MUSC, and South Carolina had one of the highest, if not the highest, tuition for dental schools in the whole United States. And I pointed that out to him a couple of years ago. And he brought up to me this year that because of our tuition mitigation funding, he has been able to lower the dental school tuition significantly. So I thought that was worth mentioning. It fully covers the cost of merit-based scholarships for our best and brightest students to ensure that we do not send our highest achieving students out of state and that we reward their hard work. It funds scholarships for in-demand, high-skilled job training at our state's technical colleges to move students quickly into well-paying careers. It provides funding for critical capital projects as well as necessary deferred maintenance at our public institutions of higher education. This capital funding has the benefit of both ensuring state assets are maintained as well as preventing the full cost of these projects from being passed on to our students through tuitions and other fees. One important project out of all these projects I'd like to mention is the investment of $175 million for a state-of-the-art cancer hospital at the Medical University of South Carolina. Folks, this is something we have long needed in the state of South Carolina. And I might add, we have a lot of our own residents that have to go out of state for this new innovative cancer treatment called proton therapy. And I asked the MUSC president if they intended to include this proton therapy at that cancer hospital. We do not have it available in South Carolina. And a lot of our in-state residents have passed away, or either they have to go out of state. So we are going to be having that in the future in the state of South Carolina. And lastly, while this budget continues to invest in our public colleges and universities, it also requires that each institution formalize its program review process and report back to the General Assembly. And let me say that the House came up with a budget proviso where they wanted all of the higher education colleges, universities, and technical colleges to any program that they had in place that was losing money and not at least breaking even, that they had to do away with. Well, folks, we've got a lot of programs that we need in South Carolina, medical students, nurses and teachers and all. A lot of those programs don't break even, so we can't just do away with them. So in the Senate proviso, we said that they would have to go through with a program review and take that process and report it back here to the General Assembly. And that way they would be at least mindful of those programs that might need to be taken out of their programs. This is an important step in encouraging each institution to do that hard work of consolidating and eliminating programs that have low enrollment or not producing adequate outcomes for our students. Mr. President, that's my report on the Higher Education Budget Subcommittee, and I see I may have a question, Mr. President.
Senator from Edgefield, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I wanted to see if the senator from Newberry would yield for a few questions.
Senator, yield for a
Yes,
question.
sir.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate the information. And I appreciate the work you've done on that too. I think that's a big subcommittee that you've been tasked with chairing, and I know it requires a lot of work, and I appreciate the work you put into it. To the last point that you were talking about, what's an adequate outcome? Because I read some newspaper reports about some of the things that the House was proposing, which, frankly, my initial interpretation was they were trying to turn the universities into technical colleges, while at the same time trying to turn technical colleges into mini universities. And so I'm curious, though. There's value at a university in having history courses and writing courses and literature courses. And so you piqued my interest when you were talking about that last point. And so I'm just curious if adequate outcomes or focusing on, and I know you said the House wanted to focus on the cost, if we are pushing our universities, and it would be more universities than technical colleges, but if we are pushing our universities to eliminate the traditional liberal arts types courses, how do you see that?
And Senator from Edgefield, you mentioned specifically like a history course or whatever. And I don't think we're talking about particular courses, whether it be a liberal arts course. We're probably talking about a program moreover specifically where you would be in a liberal arts program and you're taking multiple courses that may be not breaking even on those courses, don't have enough students in those courses. So I don't think we've got a number in mind. I think what's going to have to happen is we have the colleges and universities to go through and then report back to us here in the legislature what they're doing, and then let us make the decision, is this really worth it or not? And it would depend on what that course is, number one. But I also think that agree with you where there are a lot of our technical schools that want to continue adding on programs or such as nursing even on. You know, we need more nurses, but there are more of them that they all want to be a Me Too. And I think some of our colleges and universities, unfortunately, are doing that. They want to be a Me Too. So at some point in time, we may have to say, no, you can't do this. But I think we're going to have to get some of that information back from the colleges themselves.
And I think that's worthy. I mean, there does seem to be this big push to ensure that whatever courses that they're offering to students are leading to some type of a trade or a skill so that they can be employable when they get out. And there's absolutely value in that. I think there's also value at the university. And when I think about technical colleges, that's what I think technical colleges should be focusing on, right? There's also value at a university level of ensuring that students' horizons are broadened, that we learn more about different things. I mean, I think it's important that the senator from Charleston, Senator Campson, talks about Edmund Burke and John Locke a lot. It's important that people have an opportunity to read those things, and that they not be eliminated from curricula, especially at our institutions of higher learning, so that we maintain that basis. And so I would just hope that's something that we can consider as we go forward. Let me ask you something else, too, if I could, because you spent some time talking about tuition mitigation. Do you remember, I mean, how long have we been doing that? Have we been giving additional money in order to encourage our universities to lock in their tuition rates? Do you know how long we've been doing that?
Senator, if I remember correctly, it's been either like 7 or 8 years now that we've been doing this. And our tuitions have, in a lot of these universities and technical colleges, they've held them steady for the last like 7, some of them 8 years without any increases. But there is probably going to come a time, sometime in the near future, where they may have to look at some tuition increases.
Sure. And I think one of the reasons that we as a legislative body decided to engage in tuition mitigation several years ago is that comparatively, our state institutions were much more expensive than what you would see in North Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, some of those competitive places. And I do think that because of the additional taxpayer support that has been infused into the institutions, it has allowed for the tuition rates not to increase, such that it has, especially on a comparative basis, has become a more affordable option for South Carolina's children and their parents. You agree with that?
I agree, Senator. I think it's been a good expenditure of our state funds to do that, to be able to hold the tuitions down for for our South Carolina students.
I agree too. I mean, I've thought for a long time that we were in danger of pricing the middle class out of a higher education. And so I think that's one of the best expenditures that we've made. However, and this is what I really wanted to ask you about, is that, you know, a number of our universities require, and I don't know if this applies to all of them, but I know Clemson and Carolina do this, that if you are a student and your home base is more than a certain number of miles away from the campus, they require that freshmen live on campus. Were you aware of that?
No, Senator, I guess I really wasn't. I thought most of them still allowed commuting.
Well, you can have commuters if you're within a certain location, but like, for instance, if you live in Newberry and you want to attend Clemson, they're probably not going to let you commute from Newberry.
Well,
they're probably going to make you, if you're a freshman, they're probably going to require that you live on campus. Were you aware of that type of policy?
Well, not really aware of the policy, Senator, but I mean, just the practicality of it. If you lived in Newberry commuting back and forth to Clemson, that would be pretty much, your parents' pocketbooks would be very strained.
Yeah, that's a drive. I think the senator from Pickens, Senator Rice, commutes about every day, and I've always found that to be very impressive that he can make it from here and back, but he doesn't seem to sleep very much. Did you know they also have policies that if you live on campus, you have to purchase a meal plan? Did you know that?
I did not, but it's been a few more years since I've been out of school than it has been since you've been out of school too.
Well, the reason I ask those questions is that while we have been contributing taxpayer dollars to mitigate tuition, the universities on an annual basis have systematically been increasing the cost of housing for living on campus, and they've been raising meal plan costs. And when you require students to live on campus, and then you require students who live on campus to purchase meal plans, you are effectively raising those costs for a lot of your students. So while we've been having them hold tuition level, they've been increasing other mandatory costs that are associated with attendance. And I bring that up because, I mean, I read about it every year in the newspaper when the press will usually report upon what the Board of Trustees at Carolina does or the Board of Trustees at Clemson does. And I wonder if those points, if that has come up in conversation at all during subcommittee conversations with the universities about costs of attendance. Have y'all gotten into that at all?
We haven't, Senator. Now, we have talked about, you mentioned like meal plans and all, that there are other fees that have been increased, athletic fees, lab fees, other fees. We know that they are increasing those fees practically every year. So that may be something we need to look at in the future.
Well, and I think, look, to some extent, costs go up, right? And I understand that. If the cost of purchasing the food increases on them, it makes sense for them to charge more to sell the food. But I guess my concern on this has been that while the legislature has made a concerted effort to make the cost of higher education more affordable, especially for South Carolinians, that the universities have taken that mitigation money and held tuition flat, but on the other hand, they have increased mandatory fees associated with cost of attendance, such that I don't know what the net savings were, and that concerns me some as to whether they've been on the level with us and whether they've really been accomplishing the objective that we've tried to accomplish by spending more taxpayers' dollars on tuition mitigation money. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And Senator, Mr. Scoggins is sitting over there taking notes for me right now. And I can assure you next year when we put out a letter to the universities as to when they come before our higher education subcommittee, that they will also, in accordance with defending how much they're asking for tuition mitigation, that perhaps we need to ask them to defend on how much they're going up on all of their other fees and services.
Senator, I would appreciate that. I mean, it seems to me that, South Carolina's economy has been booming overall. We've been very blessed here compared to lots of other places. And I know there are certain segments of the economy that have not fared as well. And certainly there have been people, and there are people right now who are struggling. South Carolina's economy tends to be in a better position than what we see in other states. But even when things were difficult for the economy overall, it didn't seem to me like the universities slowed down too much in their spending. And so I just want, from a parent's perspective, if you're paying the bill, it doesn't matter whether you're telling me it's tuition or a mandatory cost, it's all coming out of the same pocket, right?
That's correct.
So, Senator, I really do appreciate, I know you got a big job there, and I appreciate you asking the questions that you do, and I would hope that maybe going forward that we can look at some of those questions as well.
Senator, you talked about this being a big job and a lot of hard work. Well, the chairman, when he put me in place of this committee, told me that I was getting a raise, so to speak, of being promoted because he used to have the same subcommittee. So, Mr. President, at this time I'll be followed by the President of the Senate, who is on the Health and Human Services Subcommittee.
Senator from Lexington, what purpose do you rise?
Introduce the Doctor of the Day.
You recognize for the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have today with us the Doctor of the Day. It's Dr. Mark Humphrey. He is with Family Medicine from Richland. Dr. Humphrey is a family medicine and public health physician with Prisma Health. He takes care of patients and trains the next generation of physicians. Today, he is accompanied by Ryan Sheely, who is his first-year family medicine physician. So if y'all will give a warm welcome to our Doctor of the Day today. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Senator from Richland, what purpose do you rise?
Unanimous consent request, Mr. President.
State your request.
To make an introduction, briefly.
You're recognized, sir. Senator from Beaufort, what purpose do you rise?
Unanimous consent request
State your request, sir.
to distribute some materials to the members.
So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my pleasure to introduce the distinguished women of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated to the South Carolina State Senate today. They are here for their State House Day, and they are meeting with their legislators, representatives, and senators, and they're also observing democracy at work. Founded in November of 1922, November 12th to be exact, by 7 young educators at Butler University in Indianapolis, Sigma Gamma Rho is the only incorporated national collegiate sorority not established at a historically black college or university. Since its establishment, the sorority has built a strong reputation for advancing community uplift through sisterhood, leadership, and service. With more than 100,000 members and over 500 chapters across the United States and internationally, Sigma Gamma Rho continues to expand its impact. Its affiliate groups support women at every stage of life, and its guiding slogan, "Greater Service, Greater Progress," reflects a long-standing commitment to education, service, and leadership development. Today's members represent the entire state of South Carolina, and they are proud that the International Grand Bacillus, Marika Harris, resides here in Columbia. Also present this afternoon is the past Grand Bacillus, Joanne Lovelace. Also, the ladies of Sigma Gamma Rho Incorporated are having a positive impact on our state in various sectors to include, but not limited to, business, education, law, medicine, and government. And also, I would be remiss if I did not mention that my wife is also a member of Sigma Gamma Rho, and she is present this afternoon. Sweetheart, wherever you are, raise your hand. There she is. And our daughter participates in the Rower Club, which is an affiliate program for young ladies between the ages of 12 and 18 that provides training and guidance in education, community service, vocation, fine arts, and social development. And so, Mr. President, if you would please welcome these distinguished, fine, lovely ladies to the South Carolina State Senate.
Please welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service.
Mr. President.
Senator from Oconee, what purpose do you rise?
I'd like to present the report from the Health and Human Services Subcommittee of the Finance Committee for the budget.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, stand here to give the report of the Health and Human Services Subcommittee of the Finance Committee. Mr. Chairman, appreciate your leadership, your efforts that has gotten us a good balanced budget for this year. And I'm honored this year, as in the last several years, to work with members of the subcommittee, the Senator from Lawrence, Senator Verdon, Senator from Greenville, Senator Allen, and the Senator from Greenville, Senator Turner. And we're very well assisted by Olivia Burns on behalf of the Senate Finance Committee, and we appreciate your great work, Olivia, to get us to this point every year. Some of the highlights that we have in Health and Human Services is to continue this obviously services that we're doing for our citizens across the state, but some additional services across several agencies. Now, we just want to give you a flavor of what we're trying to do in some of these agencies across the state and these additional services. For example, the Youth and Adult Behavioral Health, the operating fund for the new Youth Psychiatric Residential Treatment Facility, that opened in March. Obviously, we're providing the funding for them to be fully funded from an operational standpoint for this next fiscal year. In addition, we're providing critical staffing at the regional centers where some of our most vulnerable citizens reside. That is an area in several of the locations across the state that are providing these services to our most vulnerable populations, and we're providing funding to get them up to where they need from a staffing standpoint, from that standpoint. We're also providing an increase for the older blind and the prevention services at the Commission for the Blind. We're increasing the senior services for a growing population. South Carolina continues to have, obviously, a growing senior population. While we're dedicating some funds there, it's nowhere near what it needs to be, but certainly we're providing some support there. And then there's support for our children, children that are under the care of our state and those who've experienced trauma, and also additional services for expectant mothers, including a pilot program aimed at reducing complications during pregnancy, and also that the state will providing a match for maternal infant home visiting programs. To me, a very important program that with the federal match we'll be able to make sure that those home visiting programs that are so critical to a lot of times not just first-time moms, but to moms that need that extra support is in the benefit of those mothers as well as it is for those children for a period of time. And then, of course, the SNAP program. The program provides food to our citizens. We are dedicated recurring money there to the tune of $34 million to address the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Of those funds, $22.6 million would be for the administration of the program, as the state share is 75% from the administration standpoint. And then the remainder will be utilized by the Department of Social Services to draw federal funds to combat fraud, abuse, prioritize efficient program operations, and improve the overall SNAP program for the recipients and for the state of South Carolina for us to be in compliance with that program. Then there is the Medicaid program. we've experienced this year a decline in the federal Medicaid assistance percentages, what we refer to as FMAP, and it's a decline that's more than what we had anticipated and expected, but the reason that we have that decline is because of the substantial improvement in the state's per capita income, which is a very, very good thing. So while our wage growth is good news, it means that providing a larger state share to sustain the program, the 0.23 of 1% reduction in the match requires $26 million for us in the offset from that standpoint to keep the program whole. In total, the committee is providing $142 million for the Medicaid program to maintain existing services to help cover federally required Medicare services and those premiums for dual eligible individuals. There's some individuals that are over 65 that can't afford to pay their Medicare premiums. By us paying for them and for them to be eligible, that is actually a cost savings to the state of South Carolina from that standpoint. And so then we have also increased certain provider rates. We'd love to be able to do all provider rates increases. We've done some in the last year or two. We'd love to do them all. Obviously, the resources don't allow us to do them all, but we are being very deliberate in doing these provider rate increases over an extended period of time as we have resources for that as well. So in addition to that, I would also like to hit on a couple of other things to those, in addition to those services, funding recommendations that we have, capital investments to facilities of the vocational rehabilitation. Really the South Carolina Voc Rehab Program to me is one of the unsung heroes where we have a great partnership with the federal level, where our private sector does a lot of employment of individuals that are trained at the Voc Rehab. So we're providing capital investments there to make sure that they have what they need for them to continue their great work. And then we're doing recruiting and retaining credentialed workforce and modernizing permit processes at the Department of Environmental Services that used to be a part of DHEC, now with it being the Department of Environmental Services. And finally, the chairman alluded to this, but I think it's important to restate this as far as the state health insurance plan. We're dedicating $36 million of continuation of funding so that there is no increase for employees or employers or for our retirees that are a part of the PEPA program. And that is no increase for employees since 2012. That is quite an accomplishment, Mr. Chairman, for us to be able to do that. So, Mr. President, that is the report on behalf of the members of the Health and Human Services Subcommittee.
Thank you, Senator. I'm sorry. Senator from Pickens, what purpose do you rise?
Would a senator yield for a question or two?
Yeah.
Senator, yield.
I yield for questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the ongoing constituent calls that I get is people dealing with mental health issues, whether it is a family member that is in the house or a family member that may be homeless but they're aware of, or just in general somebody coming in. What did the committee, and I'm asking the question kind of, did the committee look at trying to enhance mental health services, and what did you see and what needs to be done to try to improve that?
That's been a goal of the committee since back when Robbie Kerr was head of HHS. We've got a plan. We're building, as a matter of fact, there's a new psych hospital that's being built just outside of Powdersville, and there's been one over in the PD area. The Charleston area already has one, and so those are for the most critical need. We have been working with the various individuals through the local mental health offices doing the trauma initial, what do you call it, not trauma, but centers to help on the very front end from that standpoint. We're also looking at additional levels that need to be done of mental health facilities to support between where they're needing the beds in the psychiatric hospitals and more than the services. So you've got those services that are being provided out in the community. And one of the things that we did do, there is a new youth psychiatric residential treatment facility that opened in March. So we're providing funding. We're seeing more and more, unfortunately, youth that need that. And I will tell you that in the other hospital settings, and I'm not talking about the psychiatric hospitals, but I'm talking about in our hospitals throughout the state where they're doing initial assessments, they're having to provide more for our youth population as well, though. But that is a priority for us. Not as much was done this year because you remember with the creation of the new agency, obviously we're waiting to them to get their everything combined from that standpoint to go forward from that standpoint. But that continues to be a priority for the subcommittee.
I think we definitely need to watch the revolving door situation of people in and out of that system, cost the taxpayers and the individuals time and money and puts the community at danger also.
No question. And emergency rooms is not the best place for them to have to be dealt with from that standpoint. So crisis stabilization units, that's the word I was trying to come up with, that we're putting more crisis stabilization units around the state over these last few years to meet that immediate need from that standpoint. But it'll continue to be a priority for us.
Senator from Spartanburg, what purpose do you rise?
See if the senator from Oconee would yield for a question.
Senator Yu.
Senator yields for question.
To you.
Senator from Oconee, thank you very much. I know you and I have corresponded some on some issues I have back home that deal through your subcommittee. Are you aware that one of my constituents is on the board, or a couple of them are on the board, and the founding members of Project Hope that help people with autism? They do great work over there. And they sent me some things last night just talking about the Medicaid budget, and they're concerned with the Medicaid maintenance of effort, which covers ABA therapy, and they're also concerned with the second part for home and community-based services, which covers adult services. Are we taking care of that in the budget, or are you aware of anything?
Well, yes, sir. I mean, obviously, we're doing, at what we funded, we did not fund the full Medicaid request. It's our hope that as we proceed through the budget process, not this week, but throughout the process, that we will be further along from that standpoint. But we are taking care of the maintenance of effort for the agency, and certainly ABA therapy is something that I've been involved with since we first authorized it through the PEPA program and then expanding it to the other programs. And so that's one of those areas that we're trying to do more from that standpoint, and we have some funding that at the end of the day hopefully will be addressed from that standpoint. But again, that's throughout the whole budget process and not just this budget. But
That's right.
we're seeing great success with the ABA therapy when individuals have the option of having that therapy. But we understand that their waiting list as well, too, from that standpoint.
Right. And Senator, I think it's fair to say, and what I've been telling them, that it's on your radar, and you've been a staunch supporter and trying to do everything that you can to take care of these folks, and I want to thank you for that.
Absolutely, and we'll continue to be, sir. Thank you, Senator from Spartanburg.
Senator from Lawrence, what purpose do you rise?
To see if the senator would yield for a question.
Senator Yu.
Senator yields for question.
Senator Yu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, the prompting of my thoughts within our work of the subcommittee from the senator from Pickens relating to projecting the work and the identification of folks that are in the space of needing mental health services, it prompted me to think of the overarching work of the General Assembly in the immediate past year as it relates to the consolidated synergy that we could enjoy and appreciate from especially the Office of Mental Health now and the substance use services. Are you seeing that? are we encouraged at this point from what the General Assembly has laid out for cabinet level agency now rather than the old commission structure? And then also, as it relates to our work in the budget, I was thinking of the recovery community organizations for immediately identifying people in their community through contractors for finding folks that maybe are shunted to the side or out of sight, out of mind, that they be more proficient in finding and bringing into the fold and realm of services of OMH.
Absolutely. I think we're seeing a opportunity where those consolidation of services are providing us some savings that can be used for direct services from that standpoint. And as really, as you know, when you have that major of an undertaking of those three agencies, the Department of Administration has been extremely involved and have done an outstanding job of working from that standpoint. And I think that we're on the path for that to be very successful for the future of the state of South Carolina. And our services will be better received out in the communities across the state by our citizens as a result of that efforts, and certainly appreciate the chairman's leadership and work on that, and the senator from Beaufort, Senator Davis, that chaired your subcommittee on that consolidation legislation that I think will show that government is best by those three agencies. We've already heard some things of them having the opportunity as they came before the subcommittee of that cross section working for some of the citizens that need those services. It's not siloed now. They're able to work together from that standpoint. And I think as they continue to address that, we'll see even better success in the future. Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the report. And it's my understanding that the senator from Beaufort, after being recognized, will be up next. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator from Oconee. Senator from Beaufort, what purpose do you rise?
To be heard to provide the report on the Economic Development and Natural Resources Subcommittee.
You're recognized, sir. Senator from Beaufort.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I want to start out like the others and thank the members of my committee, the Economic Development and Natural Resources Subcommittee. Senator Corbin, Senator from Greenville, appreciate your service. Senator Gambrell, Senator from Anderson, Senator from Georgetown, Senator Goldfinch, and Senator Williams, the presiding president, served on that subcommittee, ably staffed by Jessa Wigington and constant consultation from Quentin, Mr. Chairman. So, and I appreciate you trusting me with this subcommittee. I mean, for so many years, I saw that gentleman up there, hanging up there from the balcony in the frame, Senator from Lexington, handle this, and I now understand the task that he had and what went into it. But I'm going to give a brief overview of the 14 agencies that we reviewed funding requests, and then I'm going to save to the very end the proviso that I had passed out to y'all in regard to Scout Motors, because I think that deserves some special emphasis. You should have that on your desk, and we'll talk about that at the very end. In regard to South Carolina Housing, most of their money comes either from the federal government or through approximately 10% of the deed documentary stamps. That goes for their LIHTC programs, 4%, 9%. The only additional appropriation we made this year was a $5 million recurring appropriation for first-time home buyers. So we'll be watching that program to see how it works. The Forestry Commission, we went ahead and provided new recurring funds for wildlife response, for bolstering conservation education, for forest land conservation, and also capital funding requests for certain tracts of timberland that they identified. In regard to the Department of Agriculture, we provided monies for inspections that they do out there in restaurants, public health inspections, recurring dollars, retail food inspections, and also a $20 million non-recurring appropriation for agribusiness. We had some comments earlier today about how the agricultural sector needs some assistance. Provided new additional recurring funding for Clemson PSA in regard to livestock and poultry health agricultural services. Its sister agency, SC State PSA, Also got additional recurring funds for an agribusiness development and also for agriculture innovation research program. Department of Natural Resources received the lion's share of the recurring and non-recurring appropriations. There were a $10 million capital appropriation for our lakes dams, $3 million to complete some flood inundation mapping. This is the last installment due in that regard. They also received some capital appropriations for some land that they've identified that they wanted to conserve, and a host of other upgrades of their infrastructure. Also, their fish hatchery renovations, field and regional buildings capital fund, waterfowl area re-enhancements, removal of navigation hazards. Senator from Charleston, I know you've had an interest in this and making sure that we continue to clean our waterways and get the derelict vehicles out of there. DNR is doing a tremendous job in that regard, and additional recurring funds were provided to DNR to continue that good work. Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, $10 million in capital was appropriated to upgrade our existing parks. $6 million of non-recurring money was provided to upgrade our welcome centers. I know that is something that we've been working on over time. The Conservation Land Bank received appropriations as well. They received some recurring and non-recurring appropriations. Also, the capital appropriations for forestry and DNR are through the Conservation Bank, because the Conservation Bank is almost like alchemy. You can take local dollars, state dollars, nonprofit dollars, and combine that and get federal dollars, and they're very good at leveraging that up. So while the money has been designated for a forestry project or DNR project, the Conservation Land Bank is materially involved in all that to make sure that we get monies from those various sources. Rural Infrastructure Authority, there was money, both non-recurring, $6 million for rural infrastructure and $6 million for statewide water and sewer. Department of Insurance received a new $2 million recurring appropriation for an insurance fraud division expansion. There's been a lot of complaints in regard to insurance fraud, and so recurring funds were provided in that regard. LLR did not really require any appropriations. As you know, they exist primarily upon fees. We make sure that the fees that LLR charge in regard to the various agencies correspond with what it costs to run those agencies. We try to have that be a wash. And so we were very mindful of that. Office on Resilience, I want to call attention to one thing that we provided, $3,600,000 to assess PD River debris issues. North Carolina, upstream from the PD, has recently done a lot of work to clear their waterways, which has materially increased the flow of water from North Carolina coming down into the PD. Senator from Georgetown was very active in regard to making sure that particular item was addressed. In addition, another $10 million non-recurring was given to Office of Resilience for other mitigation efforts. Department of Commerce, there was some money put on the line for rural development, $5 million non-recurring, $5 million non-recurring as well for the Locate SC program, which is the Pad Ready programs. But what I want to talk to you about in a little more detail is the request for $150 million that Commerce made in regard to covering overruns in regard to the Scout project. Now, that $150 million is roughly broken down as follows. It's about $70 million for additional environmental mitigation, about $45 million for SCDOT bridge cost overruns, $17 million for stormwater dam improvements, and then $18 million for delays associated with equipment remaining on the site while a stop work order had been placed for 5 or 6 months. And so we did not appropriate any money on the line for the $150 million in this budget. We put zero because we did not want it to be inferred by putting $1 on there that we thought that it was a bargaining session with the House. Whatever money they put on the line to be something in between. We put zero because we as a subcommittee and then the full Finance Committee believes there are a lot of questions that need to be answered in regard to this. And I have drafted, along with my fellow subcommittee members, this proviso that is going to be in the budget that, in short, directs the Legislative Audit Council and the Inspector General to conduct a thorough investigation in regard to this, to identify how the various cost overruns occurred, what were the critical decisions that were made that led to those cost overruns, when is that $150 million due? I mean, is it due during this fiscal year? Is it due for additional mitigation that will occur over a series of years? We need to get a better handle on that payment schedule, exactly what kind of money is necessary to discharge state obligations. So rather than appropriating money on the line, we adopted this proviso, which I invite your attention to, and I invite your input on. But the bottom line is not necessarily to cast blame, although if there is blame to be assigned, we need to assign it. But it's more so to look forward and to avoid things in the future that led to cost overruns like this, whether it be due diligence on the front end, whether it be in regard to how incentive packages are developed, whether it be in regard to the various contracts that we enter into, whether they're open-ended in nature or capped out, whether there was optimal agency cooperation between DOT, DNR, Commerce, Forestry, the various state agencies. There is an opportunity here, if we take it, to learn some lessons into the future, and I hope that's what we do through this proviso. So, Mr. Chairman, that's my report on this particular section of the budget. I'm happy to answer any questions now or as we go forward to answer questions later.
Senator from Richland, what purpose do you rise?
See if the senator will yield for one question.
Senator
Senator,
Yield?
yes.
Senator, when you were talking about the housing and urban development, and I like the $5 million for first-time home buyers, but was there any conversation on the committee about monies or incentives for affordable housing, particularly rental housing? We've talked about that's a huge need throughout the state.
Yeah, those particular needs through the South Carolina Housing and Finance Development Authority are through the 4% and 9% low-income housing tax credit programs that the federal government authorizes. And a lot of those LIHTC programs are dependent upon state funds, but the state funds that state housing they get about 10% of our deed documentary stamps, which is about $30 million a year. So there weren't general fund appropriations on the line for those things, but they have a recurring revenue source already in statute through those documentary stamps. So, but the only thing we put on the line, in addition to those deed stamps, and in addition to the federal funds that passed down, was that $5 million recurring appropriation for new-time home buyers. So, you know, there's a whole portfolio of things that they do. I serve on the Legislative Oversight Committee for State Housing. I want to go ahead, and we're probably not going to have it this session. We'll probably kick that over to the next session. But I'm interested, like you, in what are the outcomes? How are we addressing this particular affordability need? Are we taking maximum advantage of this 4% and 9% program? Are we using that 10% of deed stamps wisely? Do we need more programs like this $5 million for first-time homebuyers? I mean, so hopefully a holistic response to your question will be forthcoming next year.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. President, that's my report.
Thank you, Senator from Beaufort. Senator from Spartanburg, what purpose do you rise?
To give a report from the Criminal Justice Budget Subcommittee.
You're recognized, sir. Senator from Spartanburg.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I want to first start off by thanking Chairman Peeler. Over the past several years, we've given a ton of money back to the taxpayer, and we're cutting taxes. I think a lot of that goes unnoticed by people, especially on the outside. But this year alone, over $550 million to what he mentioned before in property tax relief and income tax relief. So, Chairman Peeler, I want to thank you for that. So, anyway, I'm here as chairman of the Criminal Justice Budget Subcommittee. I want to thank the members, Senator Allen, Senator Hembry, Senator Goldfinch, and Senator Garrett for serving. Over the past couple of years, we've done a great job. And I tell people all the time, it comes through this subcommittee, but this entire Senate has unanimously supported all of the work we've done for law enforcement. This year's budget, across all of our law enforcement agencies, we're providing salary increases. SLED, Department of Public Safety, which is Highway Patrol, BPS, and State Transport Police. the Law Enforcement Training Council, and Triple P, Probation, Pardon, and Parole Services. In our Department of Corrections, I want to thank this body once again. Their salaries from when I took over this committee several years ago have gone from probably in the $26,000, $27,000 a year range to almost $54,000 to start. These are the people that are going in and working in our prisons in the conditions that they work under. So we've done a good job there. This year's budget, Department of Corrections, we're providing over $12 million in recurring funding to cover inflation and operating cost and to fund existing correctional officers' vacancies. There was a time where we had tons of vacancies, and now we've stopped the bleeding and we're trying to take things in the right direction. We provides the design and engineering funds to build a new 256-bed secure housing unit at Broad River Complex, and it provides $12 million in deferred maintenance to make progress on the comprehensive capital improvement plans. There's so many things in our buildings across this state, and this budget as a whole does a lot of that. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier, in addition to tax relief, we're taking care of a lot of deferred maintenance. If we don't take care of the buildings that we own as a state, then it costs more to fix them. So this budget is working on that. The Department of Juvenile Justice, providing funding to cover inflation and operating costs, such as workman's compensation, health care, and nursing costs. It provides $2.5 million in deferred maintenance for the same thing as we did for SCDC. It provides funding for the youth arbitration program and the day treatment program to keep the youth out of our detention facilities. Department of Public Safety, it provides funding for Microsoft Office 365 for all agency staff to ensure troopers are able to work seamlessly out of their cars. We've done a lot of things to where troopers can work with their state-issued phone, and it helps them do their job much easier. And one thing I talked to the Director of Public Safety about is over the years we have increased their salaries, but we've made our troopers more efficient. And that's one thing that I'm proud of, that we've given them the tools that make it more efficient to do their jobs. It provides funding to start the DPS telecommunications consoles upgrades in 2 of the 3 locations. We have 3 locations, and this keeps our troopers safe. If one of these goes down for a hurricane or a storm, our law enforcement need to be able to communicate with each other, and that's what this does. It provides funding to replace an additional 104 radios to maintain regular equipment rotation. When we first took over this, we would come in every year and have to put in money for radios, money for bulletproof vests, money for equipment. What we've tried to do as a body over the years is come in and figure out what recurring costs are needed. If we're going to pay a trooper, what does it cost to equip that trooper? And we're trying to do that in more every budget cycle so that we know what it's going to be. Cars are the same things. Radios are the same things. We're trying to do that in a more responsible manner. The Judicial Department, we're providing funding for 4 new circuit court judges to reduce time in resolving cases. And for those of you wondering, it's going to be in the 5th, 6th, 10th, and 15th circuits. So that's the report from the Criminal Justice Subcommittee. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.
President.
Thank you, Senator from Spartanburg, for your report.
I would like to recognize myself to take care of the Constitutional Subcommittee for Senator from Berkeley.
Senator from Spartanburg is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank, I normally see him over here, but now that we got the unanimous consent request, I do want to thank the staff for our Criminal Justice Budget Subcommittee, Morgan O'Donnell. He stuck with me for a few years now. He understands me, and at least he acts like he understands me. But he's doing a great job, and Morgan, I just wanted to thank you for all of your hard work. And as we segue into that, Senator from Berkeley has the pleasure to work with Amanda Adler, and I know he wanted me to pass on his thanks to you for all you do for this committee, and I thank you as well. The senators on this subcommittee are Senator Grooms, is obviously the chairman, Senator Matthews, or Bright Matthews, Senator Hutto, Senator Sabb, Senator Clymer, and Senator Rice. So the Attorney General, so They have invested in workforce efforts at the AG's office to ensure that the state is positioned to defend its interest and pursue accountability when our laws are violated, including internet crimes against children. The Internet Crimes Against Children Division, at last count, receives as many, Senator from Orangeburg, 11,000 cyber tips each year about these horrifying crimes. I know my House member, Representative Moore in the House, has kind of helped you lead that charge with protecting our children, and I wanted to thank you for that as well. Accountability. This subcommittee has made sure that independent oversight agencies, the Legislative Audit Council, and the Inspector General, how many times do we call on those to take a look at things? If we have a constituent bring something to our attention, or we find something in state government that doesn't look right, we call on the Inspector General. We call on the Legislative Audit Council. I think it only takes 5 of us senators to call on the Legislative Audit Council to have something investigated. So we need to make sure they have the funding and the full capacity to conduct the audits to protect against allegations of fraud, waste, abuse, mismanagement, etc. Excuse me. Artificial intelligence and information technology. They have heard many presentations that our agencies are worried about AI and IT and how to best integrate new technologies. This budget supports building out our statewide strategy on how our data is collected, stored, and utilized so that we can be confident in its security. Procurement. This budget invests in modernizing our state procurement systems to reduce delays and inefficiencies, to improve competition and oversight, to ensure better value for the taxpayer dollars, and to strengthen transparency and long-term fiscal responsibility. Senator from Moree. The Adjutant General and Emergency Management Division. The Office of Adjutant General in the South Carolina Emergency Management Division is one of the most complex budgets items in this section, and as an agency that's responsible for some of the most core duties of state government, protecting our citizens. The Adjutant General supports thousands of Guard members, Senator from Newberry, whose training and service contribute to a skilled, disciplined workforce, and we strengthen those workforce development efforts in this budget. We know effective disaster response requires rapid deployment of resources and life-saving action when it matters the most. And this emergency management budget responds to the past disasters that are still impacting our citizens' way of life. It invests in preparedness to reduce post-disaster taxpayer burden and provide support for our local emergency management officials. Now, these were just a highlight. These are just a few highlights that we had of the budget. If there's no questions, we're going to hear from the chairman of the Transportation and Regulatory Subcommittee. So with that, I'd like to call on Senator Jackson.
Senator from Richland,
President.
Senator Jackson. What purpose do you rise, sir?
President, I'd like to give a summary report of the Transportation Regulatory Committee.
Recognized to give the report for the Finance Committee of your subcommittee. Senator from Richland, Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and let me first say thank you, Mr. President. Let me thank the Chairman of Finance also for just doing a fantastic job. Thank you for your hard work and your amazing staff with this budget. I want to say a very special thank you to the members of the Transportation and Regulatory Subcommittee. They are the Senator from Berkeley, Senator Grooms, Senator from Greenwood, Senator Garrett, Senator from Williamsburg, Senator Sapp, and the Senator from Pickens, Senator Rice. Our amazing staff person, Attorney Amanda Adler, want to say a very special thank you to her for her very hard work as well. Mr. President, members of the Senate Transportation and Regulatory Subcommittee met this year on the budget. We have worked well, and thank you to our members. We are known facetiously as the lunch list subcommittee because we always meet during lunch time, and thank you for the hard work of our subcommittee. Just to give you a summary of some of the agencies that we are working with, the Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, it remains one of the most visible and public-facing agencies that we have, as we know, with the state. This budget will improve DMV that I am most proud of is that we invest in the employees of DMV. One of the things that we were told, Mr. President and members of this Senate, is that about 10% of the employees of DMV are eligible to retire this year. And so one of the goals was to do whatever we can to make sure that the employees know that they are valued, that we appreciate them, and that they would like to continue to work at DMV, because I am sure that all of us have heard complaints, all of us have gotten inquiries from our constituents as relates to DMV. So we've invested a lot into the infrastructure of the employees as relates to DMV, and that is something that we are certainly most proud of. Office of Regulatory Services, we have looked at them, and as you know, they have a 10-year state energy assessment plan. We are proud to have supported that, proud that we are still supporting that. I think this budget will continue to put the emphasis on the priority of what they are doing, because that is one of the agencies that not only keeps us grounded for where we are today, but that is an agency that constantly looks forward to what we need to do as it relates to data infrastructure going in the future. The Department of Transportation, I know that I certainly do not need to tell this body of the importance of the Department of Transportation. All of us are impacted by the Department of Transportation. Our subcommittee prioritized modernization of bridges in South Carolina. One of the stats that perhaps many of us are not aware of, and that is out of the 8,400 bridges in South Carolina, 2,400 of those bridges are over 60 years old in South Carolina. So we've invested here in South Carolina close to $190 million in this year's budget, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your leadership and others in stressing the importance of that in making sure that we modernize those bridges. 2,400 bridges in South Carolina, over 60 years old. You will find that in this year's budget, thanks to the subcommittee, that we have taken a look at this, and we are working really, really hard to make sure that we can modernize all of those bridges. Perhaps the thing in DOT's budget that we all are most proud of in this subcommittee is that our role with the CTC funding. The House appropriated Senator from Newberry, $100 million in CTC funding. We doubled that. We doubled that in this budget, and we've appropriated $200 million. Very special thank you to the Senator from Berkeley, who is not here, Senator Grooms, who consistently reminds us of the importance of doing right as it relates to transportation spending, particularly on the local level. So that is something that we all can be proud of as we go back to our local areas, and we hope that at the end of this budget process that we will prevail and keep that higher amount in it, because that goes back, and we've all heard the expression that politics is local, but there is nothing more local than taking care of the local roads that are in our district. Then the final agency that I want to share is the Aeronautics Agency, the Airport Development Project, that we have appropriated monies there, over $5 million for airport development that will be spread out throughout the state as relates to keeping our airports modernized. We are proud of the growth in South Carolina. I think that we should all also be very, very proud of the growth with our airports, from Charleston to Greenville to Columbia to everything that's in between. So we are very, very, very happy with what is going on with the airports there. Mr. President, members of the Senate, that is the brief summary of the Transportation and Regulatory Subcommittee. Happy to entertain any questions. If not, then that concludes all of the subcommittee reports today, Mr. President of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Senator from Richland, for that report. I'm informed that we have amendments on the desk. I would ask the reading clerk to publish the first appropriate amendment.
First Amendment is in Part 1B of the bill. It's on page 291. It's Amendment number 6 by Senator Hembry. Amends the bill, Part 1B, Department of Education, page 291, Proviso 1.48A8, lines 3 through 7, deletes item 8 and inserts.
Senator from Maurice, Senator Hembry, what purpose do you rise?
Explain the amendment.
You're recognized on your amendment. Senator from Maurice, Senator Hembry. On his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, as you may or may not know, the Senate Education Committee is in the midst of, well, it's actually on the calendar of considering some changes to the law regulating the high school league. And that's another debate for another day. It'll be on the calendar next week, and it's a House bill that came over, and we've been working on it here of late. In large part, significant part, that bill codifies provisos, or Proviso 1.48, which regulates the high school league via proviso, which we've been doing now for several years. And the high school league has conformed with that. They are conducting their business act or their activities in compliance with this existing proviso. What this amendment does is it really sort of takes the language from the bill about the multiplier system, and this is the system that the high school league uses to determine whether you're 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, or 1A, which division that you fall into. So they go through and they assess various factors. This just recognizes those factors and brings it consistent with the bill that we hope to put before you next week, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Senator from Calhoun, what purpose do you rise, sir?
I'd see if the senator would yield for a
I'll
question.
yield.
Senator yields for questions.
Thank you, Senator. I guess I'm just trying to figure out maybe where this amendment came from. Was this something with discussions with the league, or was this?
It came from the House, plus conversations. We have had conversations with the league. And I mean, there've been others. Quite frankly, I'm sure I would miss somebody if I tried to name all the. There's been a lot of discussion, but that's how we got to this language. And it contemplates. I mean, there are factors. You know, there are factors. It doesn't tell you must do it this way. It just says these are the general factors for the high school league to consider when they're making a judgment as to whether to move you up or down from one division to another.
I guess I'm just trying to understand why geographic location would matter.
Well, and none of them are absolute. I mean, I hope you see that it's got a lot of flexibility built in there, but the concern is if you have a school that's all the way across the state that is in your division, that the travel and the expense of that. So there's a general interest in trying to keep schools that are in the same division, close to one another for purposes of cost and cost and time, especially time.
Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome. No further questions. Move adoption.
Question is adoption of the amendment. All those in favor would please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted.
Next amendment is on page 312 of the bill in Part 1B, Amendment number 15 by Senator Graham. Amends the bill, Part 1B, Department of Education, Proviso 1.124.
Senator from Kershaw, what purpose do you rise, sir?
Speak on the amendment.
You're recognized on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, page 312, the Proviso 1.124. This is regarding the fiscal year dealing with the bundlers. We, in the budget, it shows that there are 954 bundlers that receive state funds, though they were not supposed to receive state funds. And so in this proviso, we would not continue to allow homeschoolers to receive these funds through state dollars. So it's a pretty simple proviso. The intentions of this body 2 years ago when we passed it, obviously many years of education conversation about who should get public funds, in my opinion, and I believe as we discussed on the floor when we were debating the issue, we and all of us had no intentions of homeschoolers receiving state funds through this program. This proviso, the 954 is $7,700 per student. That would be a $7,345,800 savings to the state taxpayer dollars for a fund that should not have been funding these students because that's not what the program was set up for, nor is the program still set up to deal with these students being funded in this manner.
Senator from Dorchester, what purpose do you rise?
Wonder if the senator would yield for a question or two.
Happy to.
Senator yields for questions. Senator yields for questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, I appreciate what you're doing here, and did you know that I think there's a lot of people in this body that are concerned about the way that the program went forward and whether or not that it should be in place, shouldn't be in place, who it should. I think we all agree there, yes, Senator. But this in effect would pull the rug out from underneath a lot of students, a lot of families that were told that they could do this.
Senator, well, actually, it's year to year they apply, so it's no pulling the rug. The 954 got it this year by mistake. Right. Now, I would say that the student nor the parents made the mistake. Department of Education made the mistake. And so there's no pulling the rug. This is not, they have to apply every year to get the funds, and so there will be no pulling of the rug. These students have already received the money. This is moving forward. Otherwise, we're going to have this same conversation every year about funding.
That's true. That's true, Senator, but isn't it also true that people that get the scholarship the previous year have priority the next year? So the intention is that if they meet the requirements, they continue to move forward with the scholarship.
In the original plan, there was, I believe it's 15, I think you spoke to this earlier, that those students, there was a set-aside amount of students that could receive the funds, and then after that, they wouldn't be able to receive the funds. This is a smaller subset of folks that shouldn't have received the money. The State Board of Education made a mistake and gave taxpayer dollars to private homeschool. I mean, that's what this is. And so now we're going to say, with the proviso that's there, we're going to say that this is okay, and the state made a mistake, and so we're going to continue to make the mistake year after year after year.
Well, Senator, I think the question that I would ask you is did you know that there are probably going to be some additional discussions on this issue throughout the process? That many of us probably think that this does pull the rug out from under, and maybe or maybe not, that's something that we want to do. But would you consider, at the very least, potentially carrying this over and let us have some further discussions to see if that's a route we want to go down before we just make the determination to exclude?
Be happy to see if there are other questions, and then I'll be happy to carry over.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Motion to carry over.
Motion is to carry over the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Amendment's carried over. Senator from Orreed, Senator Rankin, what purpose do you rise?
Unanimous consent for a quick announcement, if I may.
You're recognized.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, real quick, this announcement from the well so that I hope I capture more of your eyes and ears than normal that you give me and pay me. Thank you, Senator from Orreed, again, over there. But y'all may remember a few weeks ago a much heralded and much marketed break that I was urging us to take on March the 25th for a certain reception that was being hosted by Senator Groom's corporate neighbor, our state utility, quasi-state-owned Santee Cooper. And you may remember that I said to y'all as a real hook that they were serving their world-famous pound cake. And those of you who went with me there, when they didn't get the cake, Senator from Johnson, everyone, what is Marie Antoinette said, let them have cake. Well, they weren't going to let us have cake that night because a closer read of this invitation didn't include that they were actually having it. They were giving you the recipe. Behold, tonight, today, at this hour, pound cake abounds in the Senate break room. We have a pound cake and we have a lemon frosted blueberry pound cake, and then there's another pound cake somewhere at an undisclosed location that is being sent to you gratis or compliments of Jimmy Staten, the president, who had to buy the cake. And so I want you to know that there are 2 cakes now waiting for you to cut them in the break room for us. And so I'm telling you, having sampled what the House has gotten as their amends for likewise not having cake for them, you now, Senator Antoinette, can have some cake.
Senator from Spartanburg, Senator Martin, what purpose do you ask?
See if the senator from Ori would yield for a couple of questions.
Senator, yield for questions.
Senator, are you aware if any of this is lemon pound cake?
Well, there's a certain essence, I will say, based on my inspection of the House-cut cake with blueberries in it, that there's a little lemon flavor.
There's been a lot in the news lately on an individual protecting our First and Fourth Amendment rights who dealt with lemon pound cake a lot. And I didn't know if this had to deal with that same lemon pound cake. Are you aware?
Well, I am not that guy, so I'm not going to get into that lemonade or lemon tree or lemon whatever. But I'm sure they are worthy of having some delicious cake, as you are yourself.
Just Google First and Fourth Amendments and lemon pound cake. Thank you, sir.
And also, at the behest of Senator from Cherokee in days gone by, I will recall favorably, fondly, somebody did it. And the staff of the Finance Committee, laboring hard out there, needed something beyond the 46 of us bothering them. So today, with Marie Waller's help, we've made a run to Cromer's Peanuts. We have Bull Peanuts in the, we'll call it the Finance Committee staff room just outside the doors here. If we go through 10 pounds of Bull Peanuts today, we got 10 pounds more for the ready tomorrow and popcorn. So yum, yum, eat them up. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senate is so informed. Thank you. We continue with amendments that are on the desk.
Next amendment is on page 312 of the bill, amendment number 18 by Senators Sabb and Stubbs, amends the bill, Part 1B, Department of Education, page 312 after line 24, adds appropriate new provisos.
Senator from Williamsburg, what purpose do you rise, sir?
Mr. President, speak on the amendment.
You're recognized on the amendment. Senator from Williamsburg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is what an amendment that's affectionately referred to as the S&S amendment. Members, I start us off with what I consider to be my stab at humor, but very serious piece of legislation that's before you. Some of you may be familiar with it already. It's a part of House Bill 3258. And the purpose of that bill was essentially, in the view of many, an attempt at saving lives. We're at a point now where technology in our schools is just absolutely amazing. And as I sat in the subcommittee and I listened to how the system works in terms of these panic buttons that are pressed a certain number of times, that sends a signal to the people that need to know how to respond, how quickly they're able to respond, and how much it is saving lives. And so the amendment that's before you essentially directs the Department of Education to make certain that each of our public school districts and our charter schools in the state have this technology. It requires them to acquire it and implement it in each of our school districts. And when I say school district, I'm talking about our public school districts as well as our public charter schools. It requires them to integrate with the existing technology in each local public school safety answering point infrastructure. And of course, that's defined in one of our sections. It requires them to provide annual training for our public resource officers as well as our public school personnel in each of our districts, and requires them to utilize this system. In addition to that, it ensures that real-time coordination between multiple first responder agencies can come together in the event of a school security emergency. There's a mapping system that the state has, and it requires them to have each of these schools integrated with the mapping system such that they'll know where these type emergencies occur. In addition, the department, in consultation with SLED and the Department of Public Safety, shall identify vendors of the systems that satisfy the requirements that we have identified in this proviso. And so here's what I would suggest to us. God forbid we have this kind of a circumstance in our school districts. But I would submit, y'all, that no school in our nation is immune from some of what we've unfortunately had to witness right now by television. I don't believe any of us want to be in a circumstance where, and I know hindsight is 20/20, but what some have done is they've looked at some of the tragedies that have occurred before and have said, if this technology were in place, that an extraordinary amount of the time that it took for them to respond to these emergencies would have saved lives. And so we've got a situation, in my humble opinion, where, let's assume hypothetically, and I don't like these hypotheticals, but it could happen, that we have a circumstance where we lost 40 of our little ones. And the time it took for them to come and neutralize the threat was 4 times more than what it would have taken had we implemented this technology. Is there any of us that want that on our conscience, where we know that we had an opportunity to save lives and we didn't take the steps that we could take to do just that? I just think we have an opportunity before us, and I would urge us to vote favorably on this amendment.
Senator from Greenville, Senator Turner, what purpose do you rise, sir?
See if the senator will yield.
Senator yields.
Senator yields for questions.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator from Kingstree, I'll say, or even better, Greeleyville. But do you recall in our subcommittee that when we were passed out a sheet that basically outlined some of the last school shootings, they measured those response times in seconds?
Senator, I do remember that, and I wanted to try to find that.
And I tried to. I even texted back to the office and said, look at my trash can, see if I put it there Sunday. So anyway, do you also recall in that they showed Uvalde, Texas, response time over 4,800 seconds. Then they showed Georgia, the school last year, and I it's Appalachia or something high school. Where they had a shooting, the response time was 38 seconds, and it was because they had a simple button around, the teachers had a button around their collar that they could push 10 times, and it alerted everybody that needed to be alerted.
Senator, I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. And I think this is important, and it's really the point that I was trying to make. So we had a school where it took 4,800 and something seconds to respond, that did not have this response system that we're talking about. And then in another instance, because the school had the response system, it took 32 seconds. 32 seconds on the one hand, 4,800 and something seconds on the other hand. And Senator, do you know that I believe that the 32 seconds response saved lives? And unfortunately, in the other circumstance, because the technology was not available, we lost lives. And Senator, do you know, I don't know what our response time would be here in South Carolina if we were to have that kind of an emergency. But if we assumed hypothetically it took over 4,000 and we could have responded in 32, Senator, I don't know about you, but I don't want that kind of thing on my conscience. And I think we've got an opportunity here to avoid it.
I agree. And I would also point out, I think, too, the second part of this that we don't really talk about, but the senator from York actually presented a bill a couple of weeks ago talking about teacher violence and the violence against teachers. This is also a great way to notify the teachers that are able to notify the office that there's a situation in their room and they get immediate help from the office. So it's not just total safety against a shooter, it's also classroom disruption.
And Senator, I'm glad you pointed that out, because you also reminded me that when children are having medical conditions like seizures and those kinds of things, that they've also got a system where they can punch a certain number of times and they know that it's a medical emergency as opposed to an active shooter. And so, y'all, it's just really a cool system. I'm happy that the Senator was kind enough to co-sponsor this legislation with me. I know that he feels even more passionate about it than I do. And I hope we can come together, y'all, and pass it.
Senator from Edgefield, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I wanted to see if the senator would yield for a question or two.
Senator, yield for questions.
Is it a friendly question? No, I yield.
It's not an unfriendly question, but it is an inquisitive question,
Senator,
as
yield
I
for
guess
questions.
questions should be. I'm looking at the amendment.
Yes, sir.
So each public school district and charter school shall acquire and implement in each school a mobile panic alert system that C, provides annual training to all public resource officers and school personnel. So I guess my question is it your intention that the school districts should pay the vendor on an annual basis to provide the training every year for the program?
So, Senator, thank you for the question. I just look at it from a practical standpoint where training goes on, right? Now, whether or not they pay that vendor or whether or not SLED has somebody that's certified to engage in the training, quite honestly, I'm not sure. But my thinking would be that there are people out there that understand the system, and as I understood the testimony, and perhaps our chairman of the subcommittee can help me on this, training is going on now because, Senator, we have some school districts that already have the technology and are actually already using it. And so it's not my intent to create any kind of extra expense, but as you and I both know, just from the legal standpoint, that we have to do continuing legal education seminars, and so I would hope that they would put forth a system where I mean, because it doesn't do any good to have technology if you don't know how to use it. So that is an important piece.
And I understand that, and you just teed up the senator from Anderson, I suspect, when you talked about some schools are already using the technology.
No, that was already teed up before I say anything, I promise you.
And I guess I don't disagree with anything you said, and I think I'm supportive of your idea here. If the system is what the senator from Greenville talked about earlier, and that is the teachers get essentially a necklace with a button on it that they can press, which makes sense. They're wearing it. It's with them all the time, no matter where they are, if they're walking to the restroom, whatever, that they have that, they can utilize it. It makes sense to me that there should be some training associated with that. I don't know that a teacher needs to be trained every year on how to press the buttons, but in any event, I guess my real question was whether it was your intent that this be something that they pay for as opposed to having SLED do it. And the reason I ask that is that my experience with the Department of Education is you got to be real clear with them about what you mean, because they're going to do what they want to do lots of times regardless of what you intend. And if that's the case here, I don't want them just spending money on outside vendors to bring in trainers every year, unless that's what you really intend. Because it makes sense to me, did you know, Senator, that school personnel, whether it may even be the resource officer, may be trained in that, and the resource officer may then be competent to train the teachers, or SLED, or local law enforcement, or whomever. But I don't want to get in a situation where I support your idea, but I'm concerned about the implementer.
Senator, thank you, and I've got an appreciation for that. I'm just kind of reading over subsection C, and it just says provide annual training to all public resource officers and public school personnel who work in the districts where the systems are utilized on the proper use of the panic button alert system. And so
that's right, but it says in number 1, it says that the school districts shall acquire and implement a system that provides annual training.
yes, sir, Senator.
If you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. I wanted to bring that to your attention, and I just wanted to see what your intention was there, because I think we need to be very, very clear with the department about what the intention is and be very clear in the writing of the law. Otherwise, never know what they may do with it.
Well, Senator, I have an appreciation for that. I'm thinking we're clear, but I'm also open if we need to tweak language.
Senator from Anderson, Senator Cash, what purpose do you ask?
See if the senator would yield for a few questions.
Senator yields for questions. Senator yields for questions.
Senator, do you know how much this is going to cost?
Senator, I have an estimate. The estimate that I've gotten is, bear with me for a second. I think it was $8,000 per school. Wait a minute. Approximately $8,000 per school, approximately $11 million total. I believe, Senator, that's for all the schools, and that there are some that have it already, is my understanding.
Did you know, Senator, I was on this committee, and did you know I am supportive of this panic button safety precaution? But did you know, Senator, I have great issue with the fact that the proviso states that for the schools that are already doing this, they're not going to get any money. They're just going to keep paying the cost forever. And we're right back to where we were with school resource officers, where the schools that were proactive and hired resource officers on their own dime are are still paying those resource officers, and then the schools that weren't, the state came in and put up the money. And now we're going to do the same thing with these panic buttons. The schools that already have gone to the expense of having them are not going to get this money. And did you know, Senator, that that just seems inequitable to me that we would do that? We're basically punishing the schools that were proactive safety-wise. Could you consider putting forward a proviso that simply says if we're going to do this, that the state provide the money for all the schools to do it? That the schools that have gone out ahead should not be ones that now are paying out of pocket, while from the state budget, those who haven't done this are going to be funded.
Yeah. So Senator, I'll just say it this way. Look, number one, I appreciate your position. And of course, you and I were both privileged to serve on the subcommittee, and you, as normal, were kind enough to share your thoughts on the subject matter. And so I knew and respect your position. And unfortunately, I found myself in circumstances in this body where I once again represent what I call the Donny voice, which is being a part of those counties that are of what some would classify as being the have-nots. So I think that's another good amendment that somebody could put up, but I would not want it to be a part of this one.
So, Senator, as far as I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way this reads, it says, from the funds appropriated to the department, each public school district and charter school in the state's going to have to fund this. But I can't see by that statement that we're providing any new funding. You're just saying the money that you're getting, you're going to have to do this. But I don't know if you've got a take on how that reads.
So Senator, I think you're correct. It, in and of itself, provides no funds for it. Here's my understanding. My understanding is that there is money available in the department to deal with safety concerns and safety needs. Particularly, there is $12 million, as I strike that, $20 million, as I understand it, and other funds, because this is a part of what our State Department does. They look at what is needed to protect our students, our teachers, and other persons who are involved in the educational environment. And so, in my mind, I don't know of anything, any opportunity that we've had greater than this one to share our thoughts with the department. And I'm hopeful that this body says to our department, we have been introduced to something that we believe presents a compelling case for funding that's allocated to school safety. And so it's just a matter of us and indicating that we believe that this ought to be the number one priority as it relates to trying to maintain a safe environment for our kids. And so my understanding, Senator, is that there's funding available.
Senator, does every school in the state have an SRO?